everyone. Welcome to the third episode of the most entertaining podcast. I'm your host once again, Barry, and obviously it's always a pleasure to be here. Last week we had a great time. Shout out to everyone who commented, shared their views with us. A big thank you to the new subscribers, and thank you to everyone who shared. Make sure to do the same with this video as well. Today, I've got two new guests with me who will be sharing their views on today's juicy topic. First of all, I've got Chris Pest. He's an Arsenal fan and he's a huge soccer enthusiast. And then I've got David Ijezie. He's a UK-based Chelsea fan and also, a fellow enthusiast. How's it going, guys? Chris?
Good, good. Having a good weekend. Great weather. Enjoying life. Doing well.
Sweet, sweet, sweet. Good to have you on. David?
Yes, that's right. Yo, what you saying, bro? It's nice to be here as well with you guys. Yeah, me and Barry, we go way back, so it's good to catch up once more on football. Yeah.
Definitely, definitely, bro. Definitely, bro. So fantastic. So let's just get into it straight. So today, basically, we're discussing one player each from the Premier League
Mm-hmm.
club who you think the
Mm-hmm.
club should basically sell. So it could be for a variety of reasons: contracts expiring soon, an unhappy player, financial issues within the club. It could just be one thing or the other. Maybe you just see a loophole for the club, or you feel like this player needs a new challenge, or you feel like this player is holding back the club. Yeah, whichever player you feel. Um, and yeah, so the reasons just have to make sense to be straightforward, and then we'll discuss the players and the teams according to the current EPL standings. Basically, the way the season ended, that's how we're going to go according. All right, guys. So let's get into it straight
Yeah.
away. So first, obviously, is Liverpool. They are the current reigning and defending champions of the Premier League. They had a brilliant season under Arne Slot, being his first season in England, and obviously his first season with a top flight club, if you may. And they were able to secure the Premier League title with 5 games to go, if I'm not mistaken. And then they've got some really outstanding players. Mo Salah was one of their best players this season, and Ryan Gravenberch seemed to have found a home finally at Liverpool. So, and then they've got other fringe players who were able to make an impact on the team. But nevertheless, guys, Liverpool had a great season. But who would you pick? One player you think Liverpool should sell, and let us know your reason why. Chris?
So for me, I I was thinking Harvey Elliott,
Mm,
and my reason, he's a good squad player. Honestly, I like that. I mean, he's been like a loyal. I mean, he's been there since he was a kid. He's been there since their youth side, but I was thinking because I'm fairly sure that they are getting Florian Wirtz, and the fact that Dominic Szoboszlai is also just killing it in the Prem. How much game time is he really going to be getting? I think it could just be an easy, pure profit if you sell him,
mm,
because I just don't see him playing as much with Wirtz coming in.
mm. So basically, for you,
Mm-hmm.
you see the quality in the player, and you think he needs more game time to maybe fully reach his peak or reach his full potential.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, similar to, if I use my team Arsenal as an example. I mean, I think oh god, like selling. I mean, Joe Willock or oh god, I'm who? Why am I
Maybe
blanking
most
on the name?
most recently, Emil Smith Rowe.
Emil Smith Rowe. That's what I was blanking on the name. Yeah, but he's been doing well at Fulham, I think, and I think for both clubs it was a good deal for us to offload him and for him to get more game time, and sort of, yeah, you see that with younger players, because yeah, he's still young. He's probably like 23, 20, he's 22 maybe,
Mm,
and he could progress in his career and do a lot better at another club, I think.
100%. Rafa.
Mm, for Liverpool, yeah, Javier Elliott is actually a good shout, but if there's anyone I'll probably think about, it's probably like what's his name? Chiesa, Federico Chiesa.
Mm,
So I remember the period, like it was Euro 2020. Yeah, I think that period he Chiesa then everyone was all about. if you had seen the Italy team before they won the cup and everything, he was probably like the best winger in the world at that point for a period. Then the ACL thing happened after, and when an ACL thing happens, a lot of players they never really come back. The way I look at it, there's some of them, or let me say, it's very few that actually become even half the players they were. So Kiers, I think the ACL thing happened to him. He was out of football for like a year, I remember. And
Mm,
at that point, I think even his club UV had probably moved on, and what's the name? Liverpool still went ahead and got the boy, said, "Oh yeah, let's see if we could." I think it was probably like, I think when they were getting Kiers at that point, it was more like well, I say it was like a risk or something they were trying to take with him, and they were trying to see if it was going to work. If maybe at some point he would still become even half the player, but it never worked out in the end. He came.
mm,
He's had lots and lots of injuries at Liverpool, and he's still there at this point. There was a period he even came back. I think it was this year in the FA Cup. I think he came back and he scored, and I was like, he scored a good goal. I was like, oh yeah, like with Liverpool, you're finding form and everything, and Chiesa is coming in to try and help them finish up. That he went back, he got another injury again, and I think it's been a recurring thing with him since his transfer from Juve. And I would even like someone like Chiesa, I spoke, and he spoke. I probably, yeah, I know he's on like a very, very, very. His wages are probably very, very high. So someone like him, I think they probably need to move on him. And I've seen like Liverpool now at the moment now in for what's his name, the guy from Leverkusen, Florian Wirtz. They've
true. Yeah.
put in like, yeah, subject of like a 120 million pound bid or something like that. They're trying to get that one. So you look at everything and say, okay, where is this guy going to fit still? And I think they're still trying to get someone else again. Like they're still trying to get someone else again, yeah. So they got Gakpo, they got Diaz,
Mm,
Salah probably still got like one, 2 more seasons in him at least, or maybe
mm,
one more season. So I really don't know where Chiesa is going to fit. And even as a squad player, he's not even doing that. So
yeah.
I think for Liverpool, if I'm being honest, they probably need to move on Chiesa. And yeah, that's it. Chiesa, yeah. They're a good squad. They won
Mm,
the league, which I never would have even put them in the top three or top four. I would even like this season in my season prediction. I never put Liverpool there, but they did that, and I say yeah, they did that without Chiesa, who you probably thought was. If you're looking at Chiesa 3 years ago, thinking about his rep, you wouldn't think that he will be in a Liverpool side and they will be doing so well without him. So yeah, definitely Federico Chiesa is one player Liverpool should move on from.
yeah. I mean, two different answers from both Chris and Rafa. Two solid reasons when you think about it. Chris Lindon, a young player with a lot of potential who honestly does need more game time to be able to fulfill his potential. He's got competition on the right wing. I mean, we're speaking about Harvey Elliott. There's competition on the right wing with Mo Salah and Chiesa when Chiesa is fit. There's competition, in the creative midfield department. If it's not Soboslai, McAllister is there, Curtis Jones is there as well. So, yeah, definitely very solid reason for Chris picking Harvey Elliott. He needs more game time to fulfill potential. And then Rafa spoke about Federico Chiesa, and rightly so. In the year 2020, or rather for Euro 2020, he was at that point in time one of the most sought after forwards in world football. Decided to remain with Juventus, and things did not really go smoothly for him, and he has struggled first of all with injury since he's been with Liverpool, and even at the point in time, Ancelotti just said, it's a case of fitness. His fitness level as compared to his other teammates obviously was not up there, and I'm sure that he would have needed time to acclimatize to the EPL. For me, one season is gone. I could argue and say maybe Chiesa needs more time, and let's see what happens. Let's see what happens with an injury-free Chiesa. But one thing for sure is that Chiesa needs game time, and there's no guarantee that he'll get that at Liverpool unless he's putting in good performances. Just like Rafa said, Liverpool currently they are in for Florian Ritz. So they've got more attacking options coming in with Luis Diaz and Cody Gakpo currently at the reign. So definitely Chiesa will need to step up if he wants to remain at Liverpool. But I think from the financial aspect, I think selling Harvey Elliott would make more sense. I think Harvey Elliott currently has a higher market value, as compared to Federico Chiesa. So um, Liverpool selling Elliott will probably be more, not probably, it would be more, um, should I say, profitable for them. So definitely, I think among the two options, Liverpool might then um, lean to selling Harvey Elliott as compared to Federico Chiesa, who could be given another chance under Ancelotti. But that's that with Liverpool. Going to Arsenal now. Arsenal finished second for the third season in a row, in which probably a lot of people feel was another disappointing season for Arsenal, especially Arsenal fans and their critics as well. Should I say a sect of Arsenal fans and then the critics of Arsenal as well. They felt like third consecutive second place finish was a failure. Considering the fact that Manchester City were honestly out of the race this season, um, I mean, for a good number of reasons, it just seemed to be a failure. But then I think personally for me, for the first time under Mikel Arteta, Arsenal finally for me had a squad that I would describe as a squad with quality in depth, because I do think that the depth of quality in the team was a major reason why they were still able to finish second. Arsenal lost pivotal players during critical times during the season, players like Gabriel Magalhaes, Gabriel Jesus, Martin Odegaard, Bukayo Saka, Kai Havertz. These are all crucial players who honestly were missing at one point in time during the season. So, but at the end of the day, the squad players honestly were able to make the team tick and still achieve a second place finish, which is pretty good considering the competition in the EPL today. So squad players like Ethan Nwaneri, Miles Lewis Skelly, um, Jakub Kivior, Zinchenko, certain players were able to um, come in and do a good job for them. But what do you guys think? One player which you think Arsenal should sell, either for the purpose of them creating space for maybe a new striker, winger, or number 10. Your thoughts, Chris?
Yeah, this is tough for me just because I'm obviously more critical of my own team, and I want them to make the right decision. And just to point out what you were talking about, I agree that even though it looks like we've been stagnating in our performance and the fact that we got second again, how you mentioned that the squad depth really showed itself this season. I mean, the fact that we had Curior in the against Real Madrid and absolutely destroying them, and we had Mikel Merino up top. Like we were able to perform at the level we've been with not our ideal squad, missing so many players with injuries. So I think if we just keep working, we make the right transfers and sell the right players to hopefully get us over that tippy top line of maybe getting some silverware, we can get there. So with that being said, I had some crazy ideas, but I think the one that makes the most sense would probably be Martinelli for me. Just because value-wise, you could get good value for him still at this period. Probably like at least $6 million, if not, around there. And he has been underperforming, I would say, last 2 seasons. I like Trossard better, honestly, in most situations. And so and I know we have been looking at getting a left winger, a more dominant left winger than like to fill that side. I know we were looking at Nico Williams for a while. I'm pretty confident that is a high target to fill in that spot. And if we I would rather see someone new come in and then Trossard still be, someone that comes in, either if whoever comes in gets injured or just, swapping the squad for fitness reasons. I think it would be a good move just financially and all that.
Interesting choice right there. A lot of Arsenal fans might
Mhm.
come for you because I think a lot of Arsenal fans really like Martinelli. He brings that pace and excitement, and obviously he works so hard, like a warhorse, basically. But interesting choice right there, and solid reason as well. Rafa, how about you? Who do you think Arsenal should sell?
uh, when you think about who should Arsenal sell, I think Arsenal at the moment, this guy, what's his name? Even Skelly, he's facing like what's the name? There's some bids I think that are coming for him. I think Madrid might
Hmm.
probably want him. Not like I'm saying he should be sold the way like.
Yeah.
So I know you guys are looking at me that way. No, I'm not trying to say Skelly should be sold. Yeah, but well, I said like I know Madrid are coming for him. What's the other guy again? Saliba as well. Yeah, Saliba. I know Saliba as well is someone that's probably going to be like a long term, and you guys should watch out for that one. I don't know. I'll probably come back to that. Watch out for that one. But in terms of anyone they should sell, I think first probably two. The first one first is probably Sterling. First boy at the door. It's probably the
Well,
first
the
person
good
at the
thing is
door.
that
But he's on loan,
sorry
isn't
to
he?
cut you short, but I think
Yeah,
he's
it's
on
on loan.
loan,
It's
if
on
I'm not
loan.
mistaken.
It's probably coming back. Yeah. So I know definitely, like you guys don't have any intentions of keeping him. Have no intent, yeah, definitely. And Sterling, and then definitely put is Jesus. Yeah, Jesus is probably a person I feel Arsenal should definitely move on from. He's one of the CT. Let's see the City rejects, the period when Pep was offloading all of them out, and people were going to City to buy all the boys that Pep had used to win the league and everything. And someone like Jesus was probably seen as someone that could have led the Arsenal line for years. Because I think when Arsenal got him, it was probably around like I think it was around 25. So we around
Correct.
25, and he
Correct.
was seen as someone with 20 at 25. He had a lot of Premier League experience, and he hasn't lived up to it. He hasn't really, in terms of, I won't even say injuries per se. There are some periods even when he's even fit, and you probably just look at Jesus and you say, oh, he's not that guy. He's not that person. And the period when you guys got, when Arsenal got Havertz, the difference was actually very, very clear on like what
Hmm.
Arsenal were looking for in their kind of striker. Well, I say Arteta, and what Arteta was looking for in the kind of striker he wanted, and definitely Jesus is definitely not that guy to lead Arsenal and is there at all. Even if there's some periods where he shows the flashes where he comes back, he doubly does that purple patch. He does some full hat trick, does a hat trick, does like 2 goals, 1 goal, and he's on form and that kind of thing. But on the long run, he's never been that person that Arsenal always say they could rely on. So I would probably say he's someone that Arsenal should look at offloading this summer. And with the way the wage bill is at Arsenal, I would say yeah him because someone like him earning around like over 200, and you're actually not a person that could give at least 20 or 30. You can't even put in like 25 to 30 Premier League
Hmm.
appearances. He should be someone that should be at the door, definitely. So yeah, he's just for Arsenal.
Yeah, a solid shout right there by Rafa. Gabriel Jesus. I think one thing that's common with the mentions from Chris and Rafa is the fact that both individuals are Brazilian. So I don't know, I don't know if Rafa and Chris have anything against Brazilians at the moment, but yeah, um, two Brazilians who possibly could be sold by Arsenal. I think first of all, Mikel Arteta has never shied away from the fact that he could do with more options on the wings. And then when you consider some of the options that Arsenal have been linked to in recent times, or if I just want to say 2025 in particular, there's been talks about Rafa Leao, Mademola Lookman of Atalanta, um, a couple of exciting wingers, which you feel will obviously add a bit of flavor to the Arsenal side. And when you consider the difference in the profiling of both Martinelli and Trossard, you would say that having them at Arsenal right now is probably a good idea until Arsenal is probably able to sign a world class winger which probably has the X factor in which maybe Trossard and Martinelli both don't have. We probably would not advise Arsenal to let go of either of Trossard or Martinelli now considering how sometimes I don't know why it is for Arsenal. Sometimes it seems like they take forever to make signings. Even when they eventually get their man, it seems to be like they take forever to get that player. So I mean, so as not to put your club in a position whereby you are lacking good quality squad players, you would want to hold on to one before selling the other. So that's speaking about Gabriel Martinelli. But then when you then think about Gabriel Jesus, he's going into his fourth season at the club. As Rafa mentioned, he was 25 at the time he joined, and he will be 28 now, if I'm not mistaken. And then you think about the number of football games that he has missed for Arsenal. You think about his bad patch, even when he's fit, and you think about the fact that this current Arsenal team is crying for an out and out striker, a proper number nine. Obviously, you do need the wage bill to be opened up a bit, and then you need squad space as well. Arsenal has sold Nketiah. Arsenal has sold Balogun as well. Talking about Flo Folarin Balogun. So with Kai Havertz, obviously at Arsenal now. Originally, we knew he was signed for that LCM position, moved into the number nine position, and obviously has made a good impact. So he's not going to be sold anytime soon. Gabriel Jesus does make a lot of sense. It does make sense for him to part with Arsenal. Maybe he needs to go back to Brazil, revive his career. Maybe go to Saudi, enjoy. It's his choice. But definitely, Gabriel Jesus seems like the more likely option to be sold. And yeah, he would bring good money for Arsenal as well. Maybe not as much profit as compared to Martinelli, but due to Arsenal's um, dying need, I think we would go with Gabriel Jesus for sure. In third place is Manchester City. Manchester City, I think, at the end of the season, they were able to rack up 71 points and they secured an automatic Champions League position. Considering how disappointing their season was for a team which is being coached by Pep Guardiola, and for a team that spent £200 million in January, let me put that out there as well. Yeah, I think they were
uh,
able to save their season to some extent. I think the only thing that probably alienates them this season was silverware, and they were very close to doing that. In the FA Cup final, they did get to the final, but then they lost to Crystal Palace. And this Manchester City team was also injury ridden. They were without Rodri for a huge part of the season. Ederson also suffered from injury. The entire back line also suffered from injury. And then Erling Haaland as well suffered from injury. So, considering the aging players in the squad, considering the academy players that have stepped up, talking about the likes of James McCarthy and Nico O'Reilly. Obviously, Rico Lewis has been in the mix for about 2 years now. And considering the four signings that were made as well in January, talking about Kuzunov, Mateus Reis, Nico Gonzalez, and Umar Mamouche. In your opinion, guys, who should Manchester City sell this summer? Chris?
Um,
um,
I got one guy, and it's just because I feel bad. I felt bad for him the second they signed him. All right, and he just needs to go now. They just need to let him go. Jack Grealish. I mean, with the signings they've made, obviously they have a ton of more options on the wings. He's barely playing. When he does play, he doesn't do anything like he used to do anymore when he had the freedom on Aston Villa, and I just feel bad for the man. I want him to leave for his own sake. For no other reason than that I just miss the old Jack Grealish, and they need to let him out of the prison that he's been at Manchester City with the how they killed kind of his creativity with Pep's system. Doesn't work for him. Let him go.
Solid child right there by Chris. Free Jack Grealish, basically. Free Jack Grealish.
Yeah.
Yeah, free Jack Grealish. Rafa?
yeah, I'm in agreement with him as well. Yeah, Jack Grealish. Jack Grealish needs to go. Jack Grealish at Villa was exciting. Him, I remember Douglas Luiz, all of them. I remember, was he Villa of 2021 or two? Yeah, 21. To
Yeah.
the time they beat, what's the name? They beat Liverpool.
Arsenal.
No, it was Liverpool. I think they scored like
I
six or
think we
seven
had
goals against Liverpool.
7-2.
That
7-2,
period.
if I'm not
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
mistaken.
7-2. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, that time Grealish was the guy that could make things happen when he was at. But since he came to City, he's been very. I don't know. I won't say if he's robotic or that one aside. The injuries too. He's had lots and lots of injuries. Aside that, but I would say at this point, Grealish and City, they're not a fit at all for any reason. He needs to move on. I think City are already planning on moving on from him. I think there's the what's his name, the guy from Lyon. They're already in talks with the Shirky guy. I think they're gonna get
Yeah,
that one.
yeah.
And way next season is going. Like they said January. Pep is the only guy in the world, the only manager that's allowed to spend 200 mid-season, and no one could do that. You go in, put 200 mid-season, and you can't finish third. I think at that before that time they were not going to make top four.
Mm,
Ask what's his name, the daddy for 200. 200 came in January. They pushed in third place. They were able to make a final, at least a cup final, which they lost. But I know for summer there's going to be like a massive, massive rebuild at City. It's one of the anyway. This is not talk for that one. It's the Arsenal City one. But still aside, I know summer like City are actually going to do some serious,
mm,
serious rebuilding, and I think the way Pep sees it, I don't think Grealish is in his plans now, and I think even Grealish knows that Pep has probably moved on from him. There are certain points where um, City have been playing and they needed someone to step up, and Pep, you see Grealish on the bench, and Pep was saying like, "Nah, not this guy." He'll
mm.
probably bring in he probably even put Silva up there or put someone else that is not even Grealish. So I'll say, if there's anyone City need to move on or sell, it's probably Jack Grealish. Yeah, I agree. Serious.
Right,
I
yeah.
agree so much with Chris. Yeah.
Yeah, it's unison of agreement right there. Jack Grealish is the man to leave Manchester City, and honestly, he would get them good profits. I believe that Manchester City would be cautious of the PSR, and obviously financial fair play rules generally as well. In terms of them having to balance their books for the tax year end. But for some of those signings, I think for some of them, they are being paid in installments, talking about their transfer fees. So sometimes there are loopholes through the PSR, but obviously for a team that has been under the microscope from both UEFA and the Premier League, I think in terms of finances, they would want to be very, very careful in terms of balancing their books. And Jack Grealish is one man who can bring them a lot of good money. Let's not forget that he was signed by them for £100 million. So someone like Jack Grealish at this moment, his value is not below £50 million. So he definitely can still get them some good money. So in fourth position, Chelsea. Chelsea talking about the current champions of the third division of UEFA knockout
Taking the
competitions.
piss. Yeah.
Yeah, let me put that out there. But yeah, Chelsea are the reigning UEFA Conference League winners. They had a very interesting season under Enzo Maresca. I do think it was a successful season considering the fact that Enzo himself came out to say that his objective was Champions League qualification. They were able to do that despite the fact that it was the last day of the season. I think that's just down to the nature of the EPL. It's one of the most competitive leagues in the world, arguably the most competitive league in the world. So you need to fight to earn your place. And Chelsea were able to do that. A very young Chelsea team, which was also injury ridden at a particular point in the season, and had a lot of players who had terrible dips in form as well. But I think that's normal from a very young Chelsea team. But considering the fact that they've signed Liam Delap from Ipswich, and it seems to be that they're actively pursuing Frankfurt's Hugo Ekitike. Which player or players do you think Chelsea should sell this summer? Chris?
Um, this one was a little tougher for me when I was looking at who they. Well, I mean, obviously, I have ideas. Like I obviously they bought Mudryk a couple seasons back. I know we were looking at them, and now I'm kind of happy that we didn't get him. And he's done almost nothing for them, so he's someone that I was looking at. And Cuckoo plays every now and then. but again, like isn't really doing too much for them. So, and I was also looking at Dewsbury Hall. I don't even know why they bought that guy. So I was looking at those three, and it's hard to really. So I don't want. I feel. So I got rid of Mudryk to not sell because, I mean they had Jadon Sancho as a loan, but he's going to go back. I don't know if they're keeping him. If they do, then maybe he would be a shout. But other than that, they need a little bit of squad depth in the left wing, and maybe he could come back and do something. I mean, he's definitely a talented player. I kind of think their midfield was one of their highlights this season. So, and Dewsbury Hall, I don't think did anything for them. I don't even know how many he played, how many games he played for them. I know he kind of did only come in recently, but I just think he's not like if Chelsea want to get back to where they used to be, he's not going to be that guy in the midfield to do that for them. So I think I'm going to go with Dewsbury Hall.
All right then. Kieran Dewsbury Hall, solid. Rafa.
Um, so Chelsea's my club. So you're telling me about players to sell. Players to sell. There's lots. There's lots. I can start think about like after Disasi. Think about there's Vega. Like, we sent him on Disasi. We sent him on loan. We sent him on loan to Bella in the league. That's you look at what's his name.
I feel like I can't hear.
Yeah, your audio was your audio was a bit muffled.
Can you hear me now?
It's like it's shaky. It's like maybe there's like a chord that I don't know.
Let me use my headphone. Check it in it.
Or is it the network?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh yeah, that's better.
much better.
Is it
Much
better now?
Yeah, so you could just start from
Okay, so I said
start from the beginning. Your thoughts, yeah, from the beginning.
okay, okay. So I said Chelsea's my club. So there's bet players we would want to sell. I said from defense you could start with like Disasi. Disasi, we sent him on loan to like Villa. You look at what's the other guy as well, Vega. We sent him on loan to Juve. You get down to midfield. The guy he was talking about, Dewsbury Hall. Dewsbury Hall actually got a chance to play at Chelsea because we were in the Conference League, and the Conference League is levels beyond like it's not even FA Cup level. So in that kind of competition, you get to play fringe players you feel okay. If you put them in the Premier League, they get eaten up. Or in the Conference League, yeah, you could enjoy yourself. The Conference League, make no mistake, yeah, like yesterday, like we won the Conference League on when was it? Tuesday, Wednesday. Yeah, we're happy this and that, but whoa, yesterday, like the whole dopamine war off. I saw actual teams playing the Champions League, and what the fuck is what is the Conference League? What is the Conference League is rubbish. But still at that, we're talking about it. Still at that, still, I'm saying like Dewsbury Hall got the chance to play because it was the Conference League. I don't think he gets to play in the Premier League or the FA Cup. And next season, when we're in the Champions League, I don't think he's going to even find any game time. You keep going down. You talk about what's the name? Mudryk. I know was saying he's giving his best Adrian Mutu impression. It's funny because even if you're trying to say you want to sell him, there's a big chance he might never even play for the club again. If the way he's looking, he'll probably get banned from football. Then you also look at the other guy as well. What's his name? João Felix. Felix doesn't even start to play for what's the name? Milan. They don't. They always just give him like that here nigga minutes. Bring him 85th minute. Just go and have some fun at the field. But like I said, if you're looking at the club who to sell, there's lots of them. But I'll probably say the major person I think we need to move on is what's his name? Disasi.
Mm.
Disasi is actually a very, very, very bad signing for the club. I don't know how Chelsea went to Monaco and spent 13 million for a player that can't even he can't even do the basics. He cannot even do the basics. Like if you ask any Chelsea fan about disaster, we call him disaster. That's what we call him. Axel disaster. That's what he is. He's a very, very he's not good. Let me just put it like that. He's not just good. But I think if we need to move on anyone, it's definitely Axel Disasi. He was, I think, when he went to Villa, he was playing well, playing a bit. Then I think the manager's probably moved on from him. The way I'm looking at it, but still, like we need to find a way to let him go and free him from our side. Because in the defense at Chelsea, I see we got like a couple of defenders and he doesn't even fit. I think at the moment now we're even looking out for the Everton boy, the
Braithwaite.
Branthwaite guy. The is an Everton CB guy. Yeah, that's the guy we're trying to get now. And you look at Disasi's future at Chelsea, he's looking very, very bleak. And there's a lot of them, like I said, I mentioned all the players across board, but if there's anyone that's the first person we need to move on, it's definitely Axel Disasi. Probably find a way in the Premier League, find his way to like maybe Villa could end up buying him or any other team. But if at all we're trying to compete, like Disasi doesn't even make even the bench at the club, and he doesn't. He's one player I know that we should be moving on from. Yeah, that
Mm.
is it for my team.
So yeah, so Axel Disasi for Rafa, and it was Kieran Dewsbury Hall for Chris. And truth be told, both players probably do need to move on from Chelsea, because now Chelsea will be playing Champions League football, and then when you're thinking about the midfield depth options, Andre Santos is making a return to the team, and he's going to be part of the first team squad. So
Exactly.
you know for a fact that Enzo Maresca is going to be about serious business. He's not going to be kidding around. The fact that Casade, had to be let gone, pardon me, just made me. I then had belief in Enzo Maresca. I then knew that okay, he understands the pedigree of Chelsea Football Club, and he understands that look, this is not Leicester, this is levels above. Because Maresca had a very great time with Casade, last 2 seasons ago now, in the championship with Leicester,
Leicester.
and Casadei was a huge, a very important part of his team, And but then moving over to defense, yeah, just like Rafa said, Chelsea have got better options at the moment, and definitely they would want to add to that, in terms of bolstering their defense, and I think it might be a good idea for Disasi to go back to France, because his performances for Monaco then was what even got him into the French squad. But the French team as well is embarrassed with a lot of talent at that centre back position, and Disasi's lack of game time plus individual errors both at Villa and Chelsea definitely haven't made him look good. I think he needs to go back to a team where um, they'll probably complement his attributes, his best attributes, whatever those attributes may be. But both players for sure would fetch good money, but according to the market value at the moment, Disasi would be more profitable for Chelsea to sell at the moment. So Axel Disasi definitely is one. He is going to be one major exit from Chelsea, amongst many others, as Rafa already listed out earlier. So moving on to the next team, Newcastle. Um, they finished fifth in the league, secured Champions League football as well. They won their first piece of silverware for the first time in 66 years. They are the winners of the Carabao Cup. Um, for me, Newcastle had a good season as well, in my opinion. I think Eddie Howe had a relatively healthy team, and for the level of Newcastle, I think they also had quality in depth this season, for the caliber of team they are. But now they are getting back into playing Champions League football. Um, they've got more quality players in the team at the moment. They've got Bruno Guimaraes, they've got Alexander Isak, who had an outstanding season for himself as an individual, got 23 Premier League goals. They've got Fabian Shah, who had a good season. They've got William Osula, who has been a fringe player, but when he comes on, you see the quality there. You've got Jacob Murphy. Jacob Murphy had an had an outstanding season, from an individual's point of view. And Jacob Murphy's performances were so good that Newcastle could afford to sell Miguel Almiron in January. So with Eddie Howe, you know that this Newcastle team is in good hands. Considering the fact that they will be competing in the Champions League, who do you guys think Newcastle should sell this summer?
Yeah, I agree with a lot what you said. Yeah, Eddie Howe's been doing a great job with them, and just I guess my pick that I looked at was even though I liked him a lot, he was at Arsenal, and I thought he did a good job as an initial sort of, I wouldn't say key mark signing, but he was a big signing for Newcastle when they got bought by the new owners. Right, they spent a decent amount of cash on him. Joe Willock he did a good job. He's always done a solid job, but for me, again, with where Newcastle's trajectory is going, as he said, like they're going to be in the Champions League. I don't even know if he's going to be good enough as a squad player to sort of fill in games. When it comes to that, I looked at his appearances. He played 36 games this season. He only had 2 assists. And I saw, I forget who they played, but towards the end of the season, I watched a recent game of him. He was just losing possession all over the pitch. So, yeah, he's not a terrible player, but I just think he's not up to the quality that they need. And when you look at their sort of like starting midfield, with Joelinton and Tonali and I'm blanking on the center defensive mid who's also done amazing. But yeah, I don't think he's just up to where Newcastle want to go, and they might want to think about offloading him while he's still got some market value. I mean, he's still relatively young. I think he's got 2 years left on his contract, so you could get money. So I think for all those reasons that it might be a good look at offloading him.
Mm. All right, solid shout there by Chris. Talking about Newcastle, and then his shout was Joe Willock. Joe Willock, he's been injury ridden to be fair as well. He hasn't really enjoyed the best of fitness in the last 2 years, but yeah, I do agree with Chris. He has had questionable performances this season, and that's why he's been restricted to a role off the bench this recently concluded season. So yeah, solid shout from Chris. Talking about Joe Willock, Rafa.
I'd probably say like Sean Longstaff. Longstaff, Newcastle. I'll probably say he's one of those players that you probably look at and say he's Newcastle through and through. He's Newcastle boy from their youth team, born there. He's done everything at Newcastle, and there was a period when I think when they came back up, and Longstaff was, if you get what I mean, he's the kind of player when he was at Newcastle, when it was like when it was a starter, he was the kind of player that he makes the tackles, do everything. But that period, Newcastle, their goals were slightly, what I say I won't say slightly, was far less than what they are at the moment. Then Newcastle were a team that probably just wanted to stay in the Premier League, and making like a top 15 or top 10 finish top 10 even would have made them happy. But now Newcastle, if they finish outside of Champions League, they regard it as a failure. That's what Newcastle is now. So, and the midfield options they got nice, like Tonali and Guimaraes. The way Newcastle are, I don't see Longstaff ever even making it into that midfield or any. And now that Newcastle have made the Champions League, I feel Newcastle have money to spend. Before, I say maybe on the day of the final day of the Premier League, I think Newcastle were losing at that point, and who was it again? Villa were drawing at Man United. I'll be honest with you, things would have been very different than what it is now. If it had finished that way, probably I think Villa could have made Champions League, and Newcastle
True.
want to make Champions League, and you're looking at the players to sell. Probably you'll be looking at like Isak now, yeah. And I know a lot of you guys would have wanted him, and that is if they didn't make the Champions League, because definitely PSI would have been coming heavy for them. You'd
Mm.
have seen like Isak and even this guy too, which I feel he might still go. City are out for him, Livramento, and all the
Mm.
big guns. But everything changed. I think what's the name? Villa got a red card. Martinez was the first time. Martinez got a red card. Then Man United scored, and everything changed. Newcastle went up, even though they lost that game. They got Champions League football, and they have enough money to keep all their best players. To be honest, that was actually a good day for them. But as it is, when now we're looking at the people they're trying to sell, the transfer targets have now shifted, and it's no longer, you won't probably look at them selling like an Isak or Livramento
Mm.
or Guimaraes or Tonali or even what's the name, the Anthony Gordon. You're now
Mm.
looking at them selling French players. That's why I say someone like a Sean Longstaff would be someone they should think of moving on, or even what's his name? That's Longstaff is the major person, or even like a Callum Wilson. Callum Wilson as well. He's probably like 33 or 34. He has a lot of injuries. There was a period where Callum Wilson as well too was the guy at Newcastle. He was the guy doing scoring out the goals and everything. Wilson was a guy. But I say Wilson is like a striker that gets you 15 Premier League goals a season,
Mm.
10 or
Solid.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But now, like things have changed at Newcastle, and they try to get the actual best of players. Isak now is getting you 23 Premier League goals. He does every other thing that even your own dreams that you want your own dream striker to do. And like where I see Callum Wilson doesn't fit, I see him as a second option moving, but still, Sean Longstaff should be the person they should think of moving on for this season.
All right, then brilliant shout there
You?
from Rafa. Calling out the Geordie faithful, Sean Longstaff, and solid point that Rafa made right there. Honestly, if Newcastle did not secure Champions League football, I think today's conversation would be different, and we would be talking about different players in which they should sell. In terms of them being able to balance their books, I'm sure we would have had different. Options, I think we would have been probably be speaking about the likes of Isak, Gordon, or Livramento, who is even still apparently up for sale. And one name that both of you didn't mention actually is Bruno Guimaraes. That's another player that could have been sold.
Yeah.
If they didn't qualify for the Champions League. But I, I, based on market value, I think for sure it would make more sense for Newcastle to sell Joe Willock. Willock has Premier League experience with Arsenal. He's a graduate of the Arsenal Academy. Played Premier League football for Arsenal as well, and his initial stint with Newcastle, his first loan stint with them was absolutely amazing. I think he was able in 6 months, because he joined them alone from January. I think he was able to register 8 goals in 15 appearances, and that really helped Newcastle at that time, because they were fighting relegation and they were trying to be safe in the Premier League. And yeah, he was a good player for them, and yeah, he comes with options. A player that he could play on the wing and he could play different positions in midfield as well. So he would for sure bring more value, more monetary value to Newcastle. Moving over to the sixth position, Aston Villa, up the villains, man. One thing that Luis Enrique, spoke about last night, and when he was speaking about the different challenges that PSG faced in the Champions League, and then he said Aston Villa was one organized team that gave his boys a run for their money. And yeah, Unai Emery's team we know can always be unpredictable. But for me this season, I think there was a very difficult patch for them between February and March, where they were losing games that were unexpected of them, especially in the league. Um, but I mean, in hindsight now, I still think it was quite impressive that they were able to manage a sixth place position. We've got a couple of unhappy players in the Villa squad at the moment who wanted more game time this season. Tyrone Mings, Pau Torres, Ollie Watkins. Verbally, he didn't hide his disappointment. He wanted more game time, and then it's been. I mean, it's now clear that Rashford has first of all returned back to United. However, he is available for £40 million, but it seems to be that Barcelona might be a more likely option for him as opposed to Villa. And yeah, Villa also sold John Duran in January. Considering the fact that he was 21, you would have thought that they would not want to sell him and they want to keep him for the future. But since the arrival of Rashford, we did see the way Watkins was relegated to the bench more often. So, guys, considering how Villa season went, considering the loan signings they had, and considering the positions in which you feel they need to strengthen, and also considering players who want more game time, who should Villa sell this summer? Chris?
um, yeah, I mean, there were a lot of names that I was thinking about too. You kind of listed them off, and yeah, I mean, it's an interesting squad, especially with the loans that they had. I noted that I was thinking the names I was thinking about were also Tyrone Mings, just because of game time as well, and he just hasn't really been a part of the squad like he used to be. Same thing. I also think I wasn't sure with Rashford if he wanted to maybe stay but I've been seeing those links with Barcelona as well. So because of that, I was thinking about maybe moving along Leon Bailey, but now I'm not so sure. They might actually just still need him there to cover that position. And when looking at it holistically, I mean, same thing with Ollie Watkins, but unless they bring somebody in, if they plan on bringing somebody else in, I think they also still sort of need him in that position. He'll probably get more game time next season. So because of like the two other positions I was looking at, that players and acquisitions that they probably might be able to get and make, they'll probably stay there and have a role to play. I feel like Mings has the least chance of filling or having as much as a role. And I think he's only got like 1 year left in his contract. He's been there for a while. He used to be, I don't like it because like I did like him at Villa for a while, and he used to be definitely like an integral figure and sort of that center back that you need on a team that's just shouting at everybody. You see him on the pitch always like that, and there's a lot of value to a player with their sort of their cultural role in the team and in the squad. And Mings kind of brings that, but I think he's not that guy anymore. He doesn't seem like that guy anymore. He's not for them. Yeah, there's been a lot of changes, obviously, since yeah. I think I'm going to go with Mings. I think he should probably be moved on. I don't know how much value you'll probably get for him, but I'm pretty sure his wages are high too. I mean, they got to be up there, and that's always something to look at. It's you never really want to keep those players with high wages, and so even if you gotta let them go for free just to get that off the books, that's not a bad thing financially. So I'll probably go with Tyrone Mings.
Tyrone Mings for Chris. Rafa?
Yeah, Mings too as well. Yeah, he's one they should move on. Mings, you look at what's his name, Leon Bailey. You look at what's his name as well, and you look at the fact that Villa didn't make Champions League this season, and not making Champions League will probably it will hurt their finances if they're trying to hold on to all those players. Villa went into a transfer window and came back with a Rashford and an Asensio. You probably look at it and wonder like how Villa employed Rashford and Asensio, and they probably at that point they probably thought they were going to do Champions League. That's how it is. If you're trying to get the best players in the world, you'll be like, for that kind. If you're trying to attract the best players, you say, okay, yes, we know why we're attracting the best players. We're trying to make sure we are going to make Champions League. You probably have showed it to these players, and they liked what they saw, and that's why they probably decided to move. So, looking at it, Villa didn't make Champions League, and if they're going to hold on to like a Watkins, or what's his name, Rashford, even they are told they were trying to even
make it permanent, because as it is, Rashford is probably going back to Man United. So if at all they're trying to make that permanent, or even hold on to Asensio and even their keeper as well. Their keeper too, I will even like, is someone that could be subject to a transfer if a decent club comes in and puts in a bid for Martinez. He could be gone, because all these players are all on big wages. Like at least all of them are nothing less than 100,000 or 150,000 pounds, and they are not in the Champions League where you make a lot of money that complements all of that. So I say a lot of them could be up for sale at any point. There was a period in general, there was a period at this point in the season where I always thought that there's the guy, what's his name, the one that went to Al Nazir, John Duran. I always
Yeah,
thought that that was the guy that Villa were looking up to and everything. And from nowhere, I saw a 21-year-old, is he 20-year-old, just
he's
left.
21. Yeah,
Yes, he just left. I was like, what is this? Like, how are these boys going to Saudi already this early in their career? You haven't even done any. He hasn't even made a career in England itself, or even in the Premier League, and he's off already. He packed his bag and gone. And so I just looked at it and I was like, okay, if they could sell this guy, it shows that I will even lie. Like Villa, if anybody brings money, they're ready to talk. That's what it is. And now they didn't make Champions League, a lot of them could be up for sale. But like he said, Tyrone Mings is one person I know they should be moving on. He was their captain at some point for a long time. He was the guy that was
yeah.
leading Villa, the big guy. He was even a big name for England as well in the national team. And now he doesn't even start again. I think what's the name? Konsa has taken a spot. He doesn't start anymore. So someone like Ming should be. I know definitely. They will definitely move on from him this summer, and he should be one that should be at the door of the club. And that is Mings for me.
I mean, it's a unison in the answer from you and Chris. So definitely Tyrone Mings, and I think for his benefits, for the purpose of his career, he probably should move on as well. If Jared Braithwaite leaves Everton, I do see Tyrone Mings being a good fit for Everton under David Moyes because of the way David Moyes likes to play his football. I think Everton
Yeah.
will be a good fit for Tyrone Mings for sure, where he'll be guaranteed regular game time. So seventh position now, Nottingham Forest. A very, very impressive team for me this season. I think they were my own surprise package of the season. Great coach talking about Nuno Espirito Santo. They had standout players this season talking about, starting from the goalkeeper, by the way, who was a joint Golden Glove winner with David Raya, with 13 clean sheets this season. Matt Sales,
Sales.
Milenkovic as well was solid at the back. Ola Aino was a fantastic right back for them this season. Um, Murillo, he's an outstanding centre back, offers a lot going forward. Um, Chris Wood, the man from New Zealand, he bagged 20 league goals finally, but honestly, he was clutch this season. And he was clutch this season due to the service he was receiving from a certain Mr. Morgan Gibbs White, who was also on the list of Manchester City in terms of a replacement for a number 10. But it seems like Manchester City is about to get Ryan Cherky from Lyon, as Rafa mentioned earlier. So Morgan Gibbs White had a fantastic season, in my own opinion. I think we're starting to see him fulfill his full potentials, as a player. And he obviously is the captain of the club as well. So it's huge for him. It was a great season for him. Those performances ended up earning him a call up to the England team, in the England first team by Thomas Tuchel, which was brilliant. Um, Callum Hudson-Odoi and Anthony Elanga as well were solid players for Nottingham Forest, and they did even try to have a solid cup run, in the FA Cup, but it didn't work out at the end. But we know that Nottingham Forest are a team that are willing to spend money. But considering different factors and in your opinions, who do you think Nottingham Forest should sell this summer, Chris?
I don't want them to sell anybody. I want them to keep their team and see where they can go. But that's not going to happen, clearly. Yeah, I mean, a lot of players are going to definitely get poached just from how well they performed. And from I get the way that I was looking at it. I'm just thinking, when I was looking at their squad, I know I saw that. So Danilo, their defensive mid, he was out for probably this whole season almost, or for at least like I think the first half. He was back from injury, got another small injury around January, and then didn't really play for them even much after that. And the fact that he didn't really even play for them much after that, and they still finished as high as they did. I think even the season before, he had a small injury that he missed, maybe like a smaller amount, but he still missed some matches then. And I always just right at my own team, we had Jesus, who's just been struggling with injuries, and I actually thought that was a good shout. He was like my second option of selling from Arsenal because of that. And I look at injuries as you're just missing a lot of value when you buy a player, right? When you spend money, you want them to play games. And after like a big one that he had, which I think he broke his ankle, it's just tough to see him getting back in the squad and doing what they hoped he would do when they bought him. Clearly, they can do what amazing without him. So because of that reason, honestly, just because he's injury prone and they seem to be performing well without him anyway, that I would probably say Danilo. They could probably move on with him.
All right, then Danilo for Chris. Rafa.
For me, what's the name for like what he said,
Forest.
Danilo. For Nottingham Forest, yeah. I look at the fact that they didn't make Champions League as well, which is another factor. And you know when you're a club that's, like a club that's pulling above your weight and you're doing so well, I will not lie to you, it's not going unnoticed. Everyone is looking at that. All the teams, the big six per se, yeah, the big six, they are looking at that. And you look at the players that performed well this season. Marcels is a very good, very, very good shot stopper. If not that, Nottingham had a very, very shit ending to the season.
Yeah.
There was a period where I always tell everyone there are some home grounds you go to, and I promise you, at most you're picking up a point. That is just the truth. And Forest was one of those grounds. At some point, for a long period this season, at home, Nottingham were actually, I say, it was impenetrable. They will always win or probably keep a clean sheet at home. And most of that was down to the shot stopper, the keeper they had, Martels. And as well, what's the name? The other defender, what's his name? Murillo. A very, very good centre-back as well. And you look at all these players, I say, like, it's not going unnoticed. Which I'm not sure, they could hold on to them. If you look at a team like Tottenham are a team that are back in the Champions League, and someone like Daniel Levy, he's got money to spend. So if he's going to shop anywhere, I'll probably say like a Nottingham Forest. He's going to shop there. And Nottingham holding on to all these boys without Champions League football is very hard because you're having to pay all of them massive, massive amount of wages. The Danilo, he said as well, he's missed lots of games. There's one other guy as well, Ibrahim Sangare, the centre midfield. Yeah, I remember there was a period at some point where Sangare he had serious interest from even Arsenal and Chelsea. Was at PSV that period, and serious interest. Everyone wanted him, and at the end of the day, it didn't work out. And Nottingham Forest finally poached him. They got him, and it hasn't looked well for him as well. He hasn't really looked well for him, and at Nottingham Forest. So holding on to even trying to keep Danilo. I feel like I said Danilo might be out the door. Gibbs White as well. Gibbs White is another in my head. Gibbs White looks like the most Tottenham player in my head. I don't know why. You just look at someone like a Gibbs. It looks like a player like you blink again, you probably see him at Spurs. So it looks like a very Spurs. But I feel maybe one of them could be. One of them will be. One of them probably will get. One of them is getting sold most likely. But like I said, Nottingham they pulled past their week this season, and it's a very good. There's a very good one. Everyone actually thought Nottingham are going to make Champions League focus for a good part of the season. Let me say, 30% of the season at least, or 40%. They went top three. They were third at some point.
Very correct.
They were third, and even when I told you they were not making Champions League, you probably say it's a lie. They were third, and at the end of the day, they finished sixth. So it happens, like I said. So holding on to those players, very, very hard call for what's his name, the owner. And I think from the way the season ended, they're probably moving on from the coach. I think that's what they said. So the what's his name, Nuno. I think he's from the reports I was seeing. They said like Nuno is probably leaving at the end of the season. So if Nuno leaves, a lot of the players, their futures are in doubt. So you wouldn't even be certain that Nottingham are keeping these players or this one. So, like I said, Murillo, good season. Marcel's great season as well. But these players could be out the door. But if there's anyone, like you said, yeah, Danilo. Danilo is one boy I know that, okay, yeah, they should or could be selling very soon. Yeah.
All right then. I mean, as a point in time, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think after the takeover from the Greek owner, Danilo was one of those signings that, number one, a lot of people were not really aware of his pedigree, but when he then came into the team, being one of the multiple signings that Forest were making at that point in time, a lot of people were not aware of his pedigree and they didn't really know what he was about. But I think Danilo honestly hit the ground running, and he became a very pivotal player for Forest. And obviously, injuries have not been nice to him. But considering how Forest have performed without him for sure, he's one person who would be, um, juicy to sell for Forest in the market. It would be tempting to sell one of their key players, but I'm sure they would want to keep the team compact and together for as much as they can, and obviously they will want. I believe it is wise of them to keep Nuno Espirito Santo. I think he can do more with this team, in my opinion. I also think he was let go too early for me while he was at Spurs, but that's a story for another day. And yeah, Danilo is one man who definitely we can all agree on that will bring a lot of money for Nottingham Forest. Moving over to the next team in eighth position, Brighton. We know Brighton as a selling club already. They've been a major reason why some teams are currently successful today. Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool. You know, that's how they do their business. And honestly, there's no shame in it because I think they've got one of the best scouting systems in the world. They've got one of the best academies in the world as well. And they just keep producing and discovering gems in the world of football. So we know what Brighton is about. So considering how last season went with their breakout stars, talking about the likes of Carlos Baleba, Jorginho Rota, um, Yakuba Minte, um, who else was a breakout star for them? They had a Turkish player, I've forgotten his name at the moment, but then he suffered injury as well during the season, so he wasn't really able to make much of an impact. Van Heek has
Mm-hmm.
become a regular with the Dutch national team, so he also had a very solid season, and yeah, those were the major stars for them. And I must say that Brighton have had a particularly good season after losing a key player or two key players for me in midfield, talking about Pascal Gross, who joined Borussia Dortmund, and then Billy Gilmore, who ended up joining Napoli. Crazy transfers going on right there, but that's what Brighton is about, like I said earlier. So, guys, who should Brighton sell this season? Who is going to make them the most money? As we know, Brighton likes to operate. Chris?
You're right. They are a selling club, and that it's not the avenue that I went toward. I guess I was looking at because I mean the option I picked, and it would save them a ton of money because James Milner's wages are insanely high. And I just think he's getting towards that retirement age. They just need to offload him. I don't even if it's on a free. I forget how much time he has left on his contract, but that's who I was sort of looking at.
He's almost 40, right? So
yeah,
the odds
don't get me wrong. He's almost 40. He still plays a decent game. I think when I've seen him, he's rarely played for them, but when he does, it's not terrible. But yeah, he's pushing age, and his wages are extremely high. So I sort of saw that, and I'm like, okay. I mean, let's open up that again, just financially, so you can. I mean, clearly, yeah, there's a lot of other players they might look to offload to get some income in, and then, like they do, find great talent with their scouting and bring in some new younger players that then they can develop and sell on again. But I just, to open that up, I think it would be a good. I mean, because wages are just as much money as that fee that you get when you sell a player. So he was someone that I was looking at, and yeah, that's sort of the reasoning behind why I picked Milner. I just think he needs to retire.
All right, then James Milner for Chris. Rafa?
For Brighton, like you said, Brighton are a selling club, and I think for every season, Brighton always have like, there's always that one player that always does a ball. Let's say he's always doing so well, and you probably think they're holding on to him the next season, and it's a lie. The first 40, 50 million bid that comes in, and they start arguing with you, the club, and he's up for sale. What we're still trying to get at is the fact that if they are selling anyone, maybe it's going to be like there are lots of them. There's João Pedro. You look at João Pedro is a very good attacker. He plays across the front line. Plays as a striker. Plays as a winger. As a good attacker. There's what's his name? The Jorginho Rota. The Rota guy, very good as well. And Kairo Mitoma as well. If you're saying the person that's going to get them the most money, I probably think like it's probably like a Mitoma, I'm guessing. Kairo Mitoma, and he looks like a Saudi player in my head. One of those players that probably just gives up everything and he pack their share and just go down to probably an Al-Nassr or Al Hilal, but probably a Kairo Mitoma, and I feel like a £60 million would do it. If it's the Brighton, I know Brighton love selling. Don't worry, I can't even see there's a player that's underperforming that they're trying to sell. They love selling their best players. That's their policy. That's their everything, even down to down to their manager. I think Brighton have changed managers like thrice in the last 4 years, and they've been doing well. It's literally just how they are. So if they're selling anyone, I feel probably like a Mitoma. Him is someone I know that's going to fetch them a lot of money. Before, I was usually thinking it was going to be like the DM Baleba, that Carlos Baleba. They were saying something about him being better than Caicedo. That they got this guy to replace. Yeah, they're all making that noise that he's better than Caicedo. They don't miss him. They don't need this guy. But at the end, I was thinking they were going to sell him, and I thought probably like a City were going to go for him, or Arsenal. Arsenal were even in my head. Then I saw Arsenal got Zubimendi. So I said, okay, Baleba doesn't look like he's going to go to any Premier League club. If Arsenal goes Zubimendi, and what's the name? City are going for this guy, the guy at Milan, what's his name again?
Tijani Reinders, yeah.
Tijani Reinders, yeah, the Milan boy. That's the guy that City are going for. So you look at Baleba and say, okay, yeah, Baleba he might not be the one that they're going to sell this summer. Because normally he was the best jackpot, I'll probably say, but I don't think they will sell him since the clubs that need midfielders have probably just gone and tightened up their midfield. So if there's anyone, probably it's going to be like a Mitoma, I'm guessing. You said Milner you want him to retire, yes. But does he want to? A lot of all these players that they don't want to go. See Ronaldo for sure. Ronaldo doesn't look like he's retiring anytime soon. All of them that are pushing 40, they just love the game. They're just doing it for the love of the game. So yeah,
I mean,
maybe.
Oh
yeah, what are you saying?
On,
Keep going.
Yeah. All right.
No, tell me
right.
what you saying. What are you saying?
I mean, honestly, for me, you guys have mentioned. Okay, Chris. Oh, Chris, were you about to speak?
I think Matomo's a good shout. That was if I was thinking the money aspect of I was also thinking Matomo for that reason. He was probably up there too. But I don't know. I like going sideways with my picks. Matomo's a good one.
Yeah, to be honest, that was what I was just about to say. Both of you mentioned players that for me I didn't even think about. Two players in particular, João Pedro and Mitoma, because when you do look at the ranks of Brighton, obviously those players will bring a whole lot more money compared to the other players that I did mention, And Mitoma at a point in time, or rather even till now, is still being considered by Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich are currently looking at their options in terms of wingers because Leroy Sané is yet to sign a contract extension, and then so they're just trying to wait it out. Is he going to sign it? Is he not going to sign it? So there's a bit of time going on with that because Sané also just changed his agents. So fresh round of negotiations are currently ongoing. So Mitoma is one person who is being looked at by by Bayern Munich at the moment. João Pedro, rumor had it that Chelsea were interested and would want to, cash in with a £60 million buyout clause, if I'm not mistaken. And then, they ended up going for Liam Delap, who for me was quite confusing. I mean, they've already got Nicholas Jackson, so why are you going for Liam Delap? And apparently Chelsea are still going in for Hugo Ekitike. So I'm like, whatever, man. That's Chelsea's business. Chelsea just keep on doing you, man. Whatever works for Chelsea, to be honest. But yeah, I think those two players will probably bring more money for Brighton. Obviously, getting rid of. I think getting rid sounds a bit harsh for Milner, but maybe convincing him to retire would be
Retire.
a good idea.
They never want to retire. These players, they never want to
But I
retire.
mean, he's currently getting his coaching badges, and honestly,
Yeah.
Mingla just seems like the perfect bloke that would just turn out to be a good coach. So yeah, maybe he could just transition into doing that. But I think for Brighton, for a fact, I think one player that will make them the most money for sure is Kaoru Mitoma. Yeah, Mitoma for sure would be the one. Moving over to ninth position, that's Bournemouth now. Honestly, Bournemouth had an impressive season under Andoni Iraola. Um, Milos Kerkesh, who was one of their best players this season, we know he's already going to Liverpool. Evan Nielsen was a good player for them this season. Justin Kluivert had a fantastic season. Honestly, I think he's finally found a home at Bournemouth. Um, Tavernier came clutch for them a couple of times this season. Obviously, Dean Hoyton as well was a great player for them. He's obviously on
What's
his
him?
way to Real Madrid. He's gone as well. Um, so yeah, they had a couple of standout players for them this season. But considering how their season finished, considering how they now play football under Iraola, who do you guys think Bournemouth should sell this summer? Chris?
Yeah, they did have a good season. I've always I don't know why I've always sort of liked Bournemouth. And yeah, this is one of the more enjoyable seasons that I've seen them play. I always liked Justin Kluivert as a player, so it is kind of nice seeing him finally. I mean, when I saw him, even in his teen years, like, I mean, clearly, with the familial history, like he's a great player, and maybe he might move on at some point, but I don't think right now. And same, so they just brought in Arujo from Barcelona, which is I think a great signing for right back. So I don't know if they're thinking about offloading. They got Adam Smith there. He's old. He's getting towards that. So that you might be wanting to offload him. He's probably not going to get in that much playing time. How happy he is going to be. So he was someone I was looking at, but I think probably a better shout is because I think they have been okay in at least at their like the goals that they have, right? Again, they're sort of like a mid-table team. If they can, get to the upper mid-table, top 10, like that's a successful season for them. And I think they've been doing fairly well in the wingers and sort of attacking department for that goal that they would have. And so I was looking at who they might be able to offload without losing too much of that. And David Brooks sort of came to mind. I think he's got 1 year left. So, yeah, I mean, contracts is always something I look at too. you don't want to be having players get down to their last little bit of, leaving on a free. It's never a nice thing to see. And he wasn't, he performed a job for them, but I just think they have other options there that will probably do most of the work, and they could probably offload him without taking too much of a hit in the goals that they have currently in the Premier League. So, yeah, I'm going to say David Brooks.
All right, then, David Brooks for Chris. Rafa?
In terms of selling, I think they've already made the sale this season already. As the season ended, that's the Dean Huijsen. He's gone to Madrid, and that's the thing. With, like I said, with most of all these clubs that, like I say, like mid-table clubs, when a mid-table club is performing like the mid-table that they are, or trying to pull beyond their weight, their best players are never going unnoticed, and that's what happened with Dean Huijsen. They literally got him last year in August, and he's already gone to Madrid already. And like you were also saying, you said something about the coach. Yeah, he did a fantastic job at the club. Iraola, there was twice this season, two period instances this season, they went undefeated. Like they had like a very very good run like this. Not just normally you could say there's some clubs that just win at home, but Bournemouth are a club that win home or away. Home or away, they get the job done, and they did that to not just any side. They did that to the whole top six. Everybody felt Bournemouth this season, and uh, because of that, their best players were all up for grabs at the end of the season. And Dean Huijsen is one of them that's gone. And you were talking about if you said if they're selling anyone now that's left, I probably think maybe like Ahmed. That's if at all they're going to keep the manager. That's what you look at because there was a period I think they said what's his name Iraola was subject to a bid from Tottenham. That's if that everything has changed. Like that's the thing about all these finals. They usually always change everything. Before Tottenham played Man United, if everything was looking so bleak for Tottenham and everyone thought like that's how it was. That what's his name? Angie was leaving at the end of the season. That's what it was. So Iraola was looked at someone that he was basically the top candidate or choice to replace Angie at Tottenham, and Tottenham eventually won the game. And talks about him leaving the club have quieted down, and I think they said in the coming weeks we'll probably know his fate. But like I was just saying, if at all they're going to keep Angie, then if they're keeping Angie, then yes, Bournemouth and their coach and the players are good. But if at all Angie decides to walk or they fire him, I know for sure that Iraola is a top candidate to replace him. So if at all that happens, even Bournemouth, a lot of their players are gonna be up for sale per se. Even what's his name, the Corvette you said, Justin. He's a very good, very very good player this season. He's done so well, got lots of goals and assists as well. And but if at all anyone is leaving, I wouldn't be able to say, but Huijsen is gone. That's one player I know that's gone. So that is it. Huijsen is gone. He's left Bournemouth. So that is it for me.
Yeah, I think the two players who would have probably gotten them the most money have gone already. Talking about Dean Huijsen and Milos Kerkesh, subject to confirmation, but definitely he's on his way to Liverpool as well. Well, solid shout from
Yeah.
Chris. Honestly, David Brooks had a great season for me as an individual. I'm not sure that, I mean, in the Premier League, yeah, he did play well, but I'm not sure that there's any other team in the Premier League that would look to David Brooks and look at him as an improvement to their team, aside the team that is probably coming from the Championship and coming into the Premier League. So you never know, to be honest. But I think for the level of Bournemouth, for where they are, obviously David Brooks selling him would make sense, and he would bring good profit to them. Aside the money that they're already going to make from the sale of Dean Huijsen and Milos Kerkesh. Yeah. So moving over to 10th position now, that's Brentford. Brentford had I mean, considering how we've seen Brentford in the Premier League over the years, you would say that maybe they had a mid-season, but then with Brentford this past season, I think the conversation strictly has been about Mbuemo and Wisa, rightly so, due to their impressive performances.
Twins
Um,
of terror.
yeah, you honestly, Rafa is spot on. I think Twins of Terror makes a lot of sense, considering the fact that they lost Ivan Tony, and then the season before, or in fact, within the same season, they lost both Ivan Tony and David Raya. David Raya was last
Mm.
summer or last season, and then Ivan Tony in January. So despite that, they were still able to float and to maintain their status in the Premier League, a top 10 finish, which obviously is fantastic for them. And I think I already know who your picks might be, but yeah, it's over to you guys, Chris and Rafa. Who do you think Brentford should sell this summer?
Yeah. Well, so I yeah, and Bremo and Wisa. I mean, it's when again I look at these mid-table sides, and Brentford is also one of those. I mean, I think they have like probably one of the lowest, if not the lowest, wage bill in the Prem, and they clearly have a good scouting team, and I'm confident they'll be able to find somebody that neither of us have ever heard of that will fill in a spot. And I just think the amount of money that you'll be able to cash in on one of those two is really worth it. Who I was leaning towards was Mbuemo. He like I mean, what is it, like 20 goals and 8 assists or something that he had this season? And he hasn't even. I mean, it's also not. I mean, this is obviously the best he's performed, but it's not just a fluke. He's been a solid player for them for a while, and he's always done really well. So there's definitely a lot of even like top six sides that would probably be interested in him. I mean, so yeah, that would be my pick. Just for you'd be able to get a ton of cash. It's probably the most you'll probably get for him, and I think again, both him and Wisa only got 1 year left on their contract, so yeah, it just makes a lot of sense. So I'm gonna go with him, Momo.
Rafa?
Yeah, I agree with him. And Bournemouth as well. Yeah, you see Brentford this season, they did so well with the attack. Bournemouth and Wisa, like they caused unreal damage to different teams. Like if Mbeumo is not coming up to if he's not coming to the party today, it's probably Wisa, and it was like that throughout the whole season. You look at most of their scorelines, it's usually Mbeumo or Wisa, or Mbeumo and Wisa. It's not just that they were just scoring; they were scoring and assisting each other as well. So, but if you're looking at whoever's going to be for sale, or whoever's not going to survive it, it's definitely Mbeumo. I think Mbeumo has been subject to a bid from Man United. He's a player I know that Man United are looking for. And if you look at in terms of their age, Mbeumo is younger. Like Wisa is like a 28-year-old. Mbeumo is 25, so he's even far more marketable. And if any club is trying to build on like at least it's definitely Mbeumo. Mbeumo, I know for sure that he's not going to survive this transfer window at Brentford. He's been there. Mbeumo, it's not just now. He's been doing it for like time, 3-4 years now, and I think this is probably like he's reached where he needs to leave. Like at the point he's reached that point where he needs to leave, and there's usually there's a lot of players you always see in like some mid-table teams, and you look at these players and you're like, nah, this player is just too good for this team. That's what it is, and that's exactly what it is with Brandon Mbeumo. He's definitely too good for Brentford. No matter how you look at it, he's reached the point where he needs to be playing with some of the biggest clubs in the world, and he's earned that move. He's been with them since they got promoted into the Premier. I think they got back into the Premier League in like 2019, or is it 2020? I think time ago, yeah. And they've stayed and made the Premier League their home, and they don't think they look like a team that's going down to the Championship anytime soon. I say that all the time with all the London clubs. All the London clubs, they're all fully settled in the Premier League. They're not going anywhere. They're usually like a top 10 side, if not that West Ham had a freak season now. But most of all the London clubs are usually like they're always like fully settled in the Premier League. And Brentford especially, they are not going anywhere. So, like I said, and Mbeumo had a hand in that. He's been there with them from time. He's kept them up, and even when they lost some of their best players, they lost Tony. There was a time they lost Tony, yes, to Saudi. There was even a time they lost him to the suspension. I think he had like a 9-10 months ban or something. He wasn't even playing football, and it was Mbeumo that came up. He stepped up that period because then Mbeumo used to be like Tony's lackey. He used to be his sidekick. He used to always be Tony's Brentford. Then during that period where Tony was out, Mbeumo took up the whole job and he stepped up and he's been their man since then. Even when Wisa came up, Mbeumo still stood his ground. He never left. He's always been there for them. So, like I said, he's earned that move. It's not just the fact that he's just had a very good season. He's been good. He's kept them in the Premier League for time now. And if, like I said, I heard he's been subject to a bid from Man. I think Man United are looking for. They're trying to do like a rebuild or something. But I doubt Mbeumo survives this transfer window. Definitely, I doubt he survives this transfer window. Him especially, out of all the good play, even all of them, out of everyone, he definitely doesn't survive this transfer window. So if there's anyone that is leaving, just like you said, I agree with Chris. Brian Mbeumo is one to.
Yeah, brilliant shout from you guys. Thomas Frank also, confirmed that. I think after the last game of the season, and he said he doesn't expect Brian to be at the club next season. So for sure, Brian Mbeumo is the one to be on the way. I think it's quite rare for you to find an average winger in the Premier League who would contribute with 20 league goals. I think that's absolutely amazing. Aside from Mbeumo, the only one that you clearly put in that category is Mo Salah, who has been doing that for 5 years consistently. Bukayo Saka, with all due respect to him, he's a top talent, but he hasn't produced those numbers. So for someone like Mbeumo, it's highly impressive. For someone who is representing Cameroon, it's a huge deal for an African in the Premier League. And I think he became only the fifth African to score 20 league goals in a season. So yeah, big ups to Brandon Mbeumo. We know he's making that huge move this summer. Moving over to 11th place, still in London, talking about Fulham. Honestly, they had a good season under Marco Silva, in my opinion. Could they have finished higher up on the table? Possibly, yes, if they were a bit more consistent. Um, for me, they had certain key players who made them tick this season. Calvin Bassey was absolutely outstanding at the back. I think he was a rock for them. Joachim Anderson, for me, did not really raise the levels as I thought he would, coming from Palace, and considering the fact that they let Tosin go and they brought in Anderson. Um, so for me, Calvin Bassey was the main man at the back for me, and then his partner in crime, Anthony Robinson. Anthony Robinson is such a warhorse. He puts in such a good shift for Fulham, and he provided a good number of assists for them this season as well. Um, After losing Palinia, you would have thought that they will struggle in midfield, and I think Andreas Pereira has put in a good shift in midfield. Harry Wilson, when called upon as well, Tom Kenny, the captain, Alex Iwobi in particular. Iwobi was absolutely fantastic for them this season, and obviously the striking department. I do think that both Jimenez and Muniz were able to put in. I think they gave their best contributions considering the level of strikers that they both are. With all due respect to them, I think at the end of the day they were able to put in good shifts and put in a good performance for Fulham when they could have. So considering the type of season that Fulham had and considering the potential of the squad, who do you guys think Fulham should get rid of? Chris?
Yeah, I really enjoyed them as a club this season too. Similar like Bournemouth, I've always kind of liked Fulham, and they played attractive football, right? And their team was playing good. I feel like everybody was putting their full best on the pitch all the time. Alex Iwobi, man, I was upset when we sold him. I mean, I know he was inconsistent when we had him, but yeah, he's honestly, since Fulham bought him, I thought he's done a really good job. So that was a good transfer for them when he first went there. He did amazing this season. Some of the goals he has is just so phenomenal. So yeah, with a lot of the departments kind of doing pretty well. I was looking at the ones that were kind of lacking, and there's a player that I don't know. There was something about him on Wolves that you know, when he was first coming on the scene, I was like, okay, this guy might have something just because his upper body build is insane, his speed is insane, and it's like, okay, this guy's just going to destroy teams. I think we know who we're talking about, Adama Traore. Guy is just a tank, but he's just, I mean, that's what it is. He's got like the physical attributes of a god, but just does not have a lot of final product like anywhere he goes. And I just think with the other, oh God, Harry Wilson, I think it was. Yeah, I thought Harry Wilson, honestly, I liked him better. So if I was probably going to pick one to offload and maybe try and find a new option, it was Adama Traore. I think they should probably think about moving him on. So that was my pick.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. For Fulham have actually done well this season. Fulham this season, let's say no, I won't say they've done well. I'll say they were doing well at some point. Then they just let their foot off the gas. They had a bad run just towards the end of the season, and I think it kind of derailed the season because he was just saying something. He said Fulham 11th. Even me, I was actually surprised because at some point I remember this season Fulham were 7th or 8th. Yeah, there was a period they were like fully 7th or 8th, and they were beating a lot of big sides, and all of a sudden the whole thing just poof. But still, it doesn't still change the fact that they're in the Premier League and they're not leaving. And if there's anyone I see they'll probably look to sell. Probably it would be Smith Rowe, Emil Smith Rowe, who they spent a lot of money to get from Arsenal. I see Smith Rowe has been it's a very funny case regarding him because they brought him to probably like step up and be like the main creative guy, and he had competition because this guy had been there for time now. He's been there for like 2 seasons now, Andreas Pereira, and he just couldn't. Well, I say there was a period early in the season where Smith Rowe was there, and Andreas Pereira wasn't making the team because Smith Rowe, they've spent a lot of money to get this guy from Arsenal, but Pereira made that midfield position his spot, and Smith Rowe hasn't just found his form at Fulham, and he's making like I said, you're in the Premier League. They pay a lot of money for this guy, and his wages are a lot. So you look at the fact that next season they're looking at it's more like a performance-based sport. They're looking at like trying to improve, and seeing someone like Smith Rowe who couldn't displace Andres Pereira. Andres Pereira has been very, very good, and I don't think they're trying to move on from him. So someone like Smith Rowe, if he's not starting at a Fulham, he should probably go somewhere where he should probably start. At some point he was a good guy at Arsenal. He had some ups and downs, but if someone like a Smith Rowe isn't the first names on the team sheet at Fulham, I don't think he should be anywhere near the club. If at all he's trying to save his career like he did when he left Arsenal. Like I said, Fulham, they had like what Ope was saying what Barry was saying before. He said, what's the name? Fulham lost a lot of players. They lost a lot of big players. Palinia, they lost Tosin, the one that came to Chelsea as well, and they replaced all of these players with some people stepped up per se, but this guy, what's his name? Smith Rowe, they spent money on him. He hasn't been able to claim any spot for himself in that Fulham first 11. And Fulham per se are not even consistent. If you're not even in the first team at Fulham, I don't think he should be anywhere at the club. So if there's anyone I feel they would be looking to move on, even for himself, ESR as well, I think it's probably Smith Rowe that will be looking to move at the end of the season, definitely for Fulham. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, honestly, solid shout, guys. Smith Road for sure. It might be too early for him. You would think maybe he should spend a bit more time at the club, considering that the fact that it's just his first season. And then I think his first season back playing regular football. I think Smith Rowe had issues in terms of getting match rhythm back, and he didn't really have so much time. Marco Silva just put him into the mix immediately because obviously after Fulham spending a club record fee, they want the player to impress immediately. And at first, it seemed to be that he hit the ground running, but obviously fatigue set in, and then him being able to have different wing partners, that was also something that would have been difficult for him, because the wingers kept changing at the beginning of the season till they finally got settled with, just having Iwobi and Adama Traore. But just like Chris mentioned as well, Andres Pereira is a good shout. Harry Wilson is a good shout as well. So a good number of players that Fulham could possibly sell, in order to bring in more players that would also add quality to the team and hopefully help them achieve whatever it is they want to achieve. Whatever it is the case for Fulham. Yeah. So moving over to 12th place now, Crystal Palace. A team that won the FA Cup, by the way. They will be participating in the Community Shield against Liverpool. That would be the official curtain raiser for the 2025-2026 Premier League season. The first time that Crystal Palace is winning a trophy for the first time in 54 years. Um, it was a huge one for them. I think for me, Palace have been the original Mandem FC, if I may. With
South
this,
London.
yeah,
South.
proper South London team, and someone like Zaha and Bolasi, they were the ones that basically laid the foundation. And now taking a look at this Crystal Palace side under Oliver Glasner, a manager who I highly rate. I honestly really do respect him. I do respect managers that have a different philosophy and just say this is what I want, this is what works for me, and they go to any club in the world, they change their system and they say, look, this is what I want. Go get me the players that would fit well into this system. And I think Oliver Glasner, to an extent, was lucky that Crystal Palace had players that could execute his style of football. January came and they still supported him with certain signings. I mean, Crystal Palace in a way is also known as a selling club. They lost Joachim Anderson to Fulham, like I said earlier. They were able to get from Wolfsburg Maxon Lacroix, who for me has been an outstanding signing for them. Obviously, hasn't been consistent due to injury, but he has been good for them. Nathaniel Chaluba at a point in time was with them, during the season on loan from Chelsea, and he was a good fit for them. I'm saying all of this just to highlight how good recruitment is for Palace, under Glasner to be precise. And obviously, Diego Munoz has been a huge member of the team since he came in at right wing back. Obviously, Eberici Eze has been the standout star for them. Ismail Assar later on got into good form and got into good match rhythm. He started giving good performances. But obviously, we can't speak about Crystal Palace without speaking about JP, John Philip Mateta, who obviously was brilliant for them from last season. And coming into this season, injury obviously was a major thing for him. That's why he probably wasn't able to contribute with as much goals. But Palace did have a solid season for me. But then, considering the fact that they won the FA Cup, they should be a team that should be progressing. Who do you guys think we should sell? Chris?
Yeah, I went so I love this player and I would like for Crystal Palace to sell him because I want to see him at a bigger club. I think it's sort of that right time. He's been at Crystal Palace for a couple of years now, and he's been performing every single year. He's been probably their top player. Clearly was their top player this year. Got them silverware basically. I mean, obviously it's a team effort, but yeah, Abrise Eze is just a phenomenal player, and also thinking, I think like historically looking back at like Wilfried Zaha and how they treated that player when it came to trying to offload or like pricing on transfers with him. I know Arsenal, we were looking at him and we couldn't get that deal done. And he just sort of fell off and did not perform as good as he used to. And you could see a similar. I worry for a similar thing happening with Eze if they don't let him move on. I imagine he has ambitions for a bigger club. He's in the MLS now. Za's in the MLS. I just think you're going to get an insane amount of value if you sell him now, clearly just with having the season that he had. So for the money that you could get for him, the fact that he's just a talent meant for more than Crystal Palace is currently. I mean, I'm all for clubs getting bigger and, sort of breaking into that more upper echelon of, the Premier League, but Crystal Palace just isn't there yet. And it would be nice to see as they sort of move on. Just the amount of money that they'd be able to get for him would be phenomenal. So I think it would be a really good idea for them to try and think about offloading him. And I would like to see it wherever he would land, because he'll probably kick ass whatever team he goes to.
Yeah, for sure. Iberici is a solid shout. That's the man that everyone needs and is expecting, to make the next step. Yeah, solid shout from Chris. Rafa?
Palace, like you said, Mandem FC. Palace actually, in my opinion, had a very, very good season. You see those boys have actually cemented themselves. When I say they put it's a legend status for them at Palace for a long time to come. Like, this is actually the first trophy in their history, and someone like Eze being the guy to even deliver it for them, you definitely know that at Palace he will always be regarded very, very high at the club. And for any comes to, but like you said, you're talking about Palace, you talk about Eze makes them take him, Jean-Philippe Mateta, very good striker. You look at what's his name, Adam Wharton. That's a very, very good centre midfield at at Palace. He does everything you want. The tackles, passes, every single thing. And if you're talking about holding on to these players, that's what you look at is the issue. How are they going to do this? Someone like Iberici is at least last season with his boy, what's his name? Ulisse. Ulisse had a very good season last season, and he had a very, 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 very good. And from that point, from the summer, you saw lots of clubs were up for him. What's the other guy? Chelsea were up for him. Bayern came for him. Chelsea even were so close to signing him, and then at the end of the day, he opted to move to Germany for his career, or I think he said they pay him more, but still. It's holding on to the best player is going to be an issue for Palace, because someone like Eze now, you definitely know that this summer a lot of clubs are going to come for him. He is literally, like I said, he's a legend in the eyes of all of them at Crystal Palace. So it's going to be more of like his choice moving, because if these clubs come for him, someone like the club will probably want to block it off, which I know is going to be very, very hard to ward off interest for someone like Iberici Eze. But you look at also in the striking department, what's the name? Mateta. Mateta has been a very, very good player for them this season. He's been there for them when it comes to the goal. So if there's anyone, they'll probably look at selling. Probably I'll look at like Eddie Nketiah. Eddie Nketiah came from Arsenal. He was tasked with being the guy to lead the line, and he's... Sorry. Hello? Can you hear me? Yeah. So he's been tasked to lead the line at Palace, and he has just not done that. So you look at Mateta. Mateta has been their go-to guy when they always needed someone. It's always been Mateta here and there, and you look at it's not been going so well for Eddie. I probably say someone like Eddie might, because the way since Palace won a trophy this season, at the end of this last season, I think especially with the players that won it for them, they will probably be doing everything in their power to hold on to these players. Every single thing to hold on to these players. Like I said, so if you probably come for Eze, they're going to try to ward off all that interest. It's going to be like a preference for Eze. Eze probably know that at this point at Palace, he's like a god at Palace. Whatever thing they want, they'll probably give it to him. So it's just his choice. If he wants to make that move, that's what it's going to be like. Same with Adam Watson, what's the name? Same with Henderson, the keeper as well. All good players. If they want to make this move, it's only going to be them. So if at all they're going to sell any player, in my opinion, it's probably going to be like an Eddie Nketiah or even this guy. What's his name? Mark Guehi. Mark Guehi as well is another guy too that you could look at. Guehi as well. Guehi, if the right bid comes in, I think someone like a Guehi could leave for around a £14 million. 40 to 45 million pound if any of the top six sides just look for putting a cheeky bid for a centre back that is Matt Guehi. 40 45 million pounds should do it for them, in my opinion. But like I said, Eze leaving Palace is going to be his choice, not going to be on. Even if any club brings, in my opinion, if any club brings even like a 80 or 100 million to Palace to sell Eze, the club are probably going to reject it, except Eze forces that transfer. That's where it is. Eze right now, in the eyes of any Palace fan you see, is like a god. Anything he wants, he's going to get it. He's giving them an experience of a lifetime that's going to last them for time. So someone like an Eze, him living is going to be on his own distinct terms, and it's going to be his own choice. If anyone is living, like I said, at Palace, probably Eddie Nketiah or McGrady. McGrady looks like a logical one. Like I said, if the right bid comes in, he looks in my head like a good 40, 45 million pound centre back on the market. So if any of the top six sides are looking for someone of that in that range, McGrady might be the guy. And I feel they would let him go. It's not someone that is more like, I would say he's indispensable like that. Palace, yeah, they're a selling club if you bring the right price. But there are some certain players, like I said, like an Eze, which I feel in the eyes of most Palace will be regarded as untouchable. It's only going to be the player that will make that happen on his own terms. So if there's anyone they're selling, like I said, the two in my head probably is Eddie Nketiah, which I feel it's not been going well for him with the way Mateta has been playing, and he doesn't look like he's going to lead the line next season, in my opinion, to our Palace. So someone like an Eddie Nketiah or a McGuire, if a right bid comes in for him. So those are my guys for Palace.
Solid choice from you guys. Before this season or before now, we've known Crystal Palace to be a selling club. But, after winning the FA Cup now and considering this group of players, how tight knit they are, a good number of them are Christians, and then, they've got this nice Christian community going on. I think, in my opinion, I think for the owners, if they look at this, they might want to then be ambitious now and maybe start to push for other things. Maybe try and secure a place in Europe, maybe try and win another cup again, maybe this time the Carabao Cup, and just try their luck and see how it really goes. I think it
Sorry.
might be, again, go on.
Yeah, like you said, they got Europe as well with the FA Cup win.
Exactly, but I'm not sure if it's the Europa League or the Conference League. I think it will be the Europa League. I think it should be the Europa
No.
League after winning the FA Cup.
Yeah.
It's definitely the Europa League. Yeah, our producer just confirmed. So they'll be looking forward to the Europa League. So meaning that they would want to compete genuinely. Um, Meaning, actually, instead of selling their best players, you would expect them to bolster up the squad. But financially, Crystal Palace are definitely not one of the most buoyant teams. In the league, we've always known them to always sell their best players in order to recoup and get better players basically. But things could change this summer. I'm excited to see what's going to happen for them. It could be a case whereby they need to get new players or they need to sell one of their best players. Eze definitely will be one of the most sought after players. Honestly, if Palace are going to sell him, don't be surprised if you hear something as ridiculous as £200 million. Just like Rafa said, Eze is currently untouchable. Mark Gehi, at a point in time last season, or rather before the conclusion of the last transfer window, the last summer transfer window, he was the rumor had it that he could have joined Newcastle. That didn't happen. But honestly, I see Gehi as someone who really really loves Palace. Considering the fact that Palace gave him his professional debut in the Premier League and they allowed him to play Premier League football for the first time. So we never know. We never know. So we'll see what happens with Crystal Palace. Moving over to the 13th position now, Everton. which, I mean, for an Everton side, considering how they started the season and how they struggled under Shandaish the season before, they were also flirting with relegation. And then David Moyes came in midway and was able to help them, first of all, break free from the relegation battle, and then, just push up as high as they could. And then they ended up with a 13th place position. Um, Currently they've already let go of they've already let go of a good number of loan signings, loan acquisitions that they made last season. Jack Harrison going back to Leeds United, Lindstrom leaving as well, Orel Mangala leaving, yeah, Broha going back to Chelsea, obviously, and so those are the major loans that left. They've secured the full signing of Alcaraz, and who has been I mean, he was a good signing for them initially on loan, but he was impactful, especially under David Moyes. So you take a look at Everton, and then they've got certain players who will probably fish them a lot of money, and then they've got players who've been there for a while who maybe haven't really performed well. So, guys, for Everton, talking about the blue side of Merseyside, who should they be selling this summer?
So, who I was looking most at, I think Beto has been good up top for them, and because of that reason, and again, Everton is clearly, I mean, they're not in any sort of, the Premier League's the only competition they really need to focus on. Calvert-Lewin, it's just not where he used to be when people were looking at him, when they probably could have gotten a ton more money for him and a ton more value. But at this point, with Beto coming in, sort of doing the job and leading the line at a decent level, and even when I've seen Calvert-Lewin come in, I don't think he's done that great. I think it might be worth a shout looking at selling him. I imagine his wages are probably decently high, I mean, he's been at the club forever. And even just for him as the player, it's always good to get a change of scenery, get a different club, try and see if something different works better for you, because it just doesn't seem to be working out for him at Everton these past couple of years. So yeah, my shot would be yeah, he's not what he used to be. And so yeah, I just think he needs a new start somewhere, just to try and find that old form, right? I mean, he's a lot of these players that sort of fall off when maybe competition comes in and they don't rise up to that competition. It's not necessarily because they're a bad player, but it's just sometimes they just need a new challenge, and I think that's the case when it comes to Calvert-Lewin. So I'm going to say that. I'm going to say Calvert needs to look for a new team.
Yeah, Rafa.
Yeah, it's a good one. I remember DCL. There was a period when the cheek of this guy, this Everton side, they were rejecting around 80 million for him. I think it was like 3 years ago. 3 years ago, his stocks were at an all-time high. Like, you probably look at DCL and they were like, this is one of the best young players in the league, the best young strikers. And I think it was the period when this guy came in. What's his name? Haaland. And I think that time, a lot of clubs were starting to see the potential. Because, Pep is the kind of person that influences the whole league. They saw Pep go out for like a Haaland, and everyone started saying, oh yeah, that every club started looking for like the next best, let's say, I won't say PMP, or let's say very athletic striker, and DCL, Dominic was that guy, and clubs were, Everton on their own were valuing him above 120 million. I was like, oh, look at this guy. You're valuing this player over 120 million, and they said even a 70, 80 wouldn't get him out of the club. Now, the last 2, 3 years, he's had a lot of injuries, and it's not worked out for him. And definitely, they increased his salary a lot just to keep him at the club, to make him happy. He looks like someone that would be at the door definitely this summer, Calvert-Lewin, as well as this guy. What's his name? One of their top centre backs, Jared Branthwaite. I said that one as well is a guy that I'll be very, very surprised if he's at the club come game week 1 of the Premier League season 25-26, I will be very, very surprised. He's subject of a bid from Chelsea, and I know Chelsea most likely going to get the job done. I've been saying that very, very strong links. If at all Chelsea don't eventually sign him, I still feel he will make the move. But Gerard Brathwaite is one player I know that is subject to a move definitely at Everton, as well as like you said, the Calvert-Lewin guy. And I think now they're moving to a new stadium, the Merseyside Blues. So I think what's the name of the new stadium again? I want something. So they're moving to a new stadium, and at the moment, right now, I say the vibes are high. They're trying to impress. They just want to do well at this new ground and see, because I think now with this new stadium they're going to get a lot of more money. They're going to get a lot more money now with in terms of like football and non-football related activities. So that one aside, they're going to be active in the market, but selling players, like I said, selling players definitely. What's his name? Dominic Calvert-Lewin is one player the Hill Dickinson Stadium. Yeah, that's the new stadium I know. One player that's definitely going to leave is Dominic Calvert-Lewin. He could leave him, or like Gerard Brathwaite, which I said, if at all game week 1 of 25-26 season he's still there, I'll be very, very shocked. He's a player I know that's what's the name? Chelsea have seen him as the next big thing to partner what's the name, Levi Colwell. So he's a player I know that I wouldn't say he's gone, but he's definitely at the door. And as well, the Calvert-Lewin guy, keeping him with his wages and everything, it's not worked out for him. He's probably like 27 or 28 now. He's an old guy now. He's at the end of the curve, and he hasn't even put in at least 20 Premier League goals. Will I even see? How many people talking about goals? He hasn't even put in like appearances in a season. I don't think he's been able to put in around like 20, 25 Premier League appearances. So someone like a Caballero, it's probably like it would be a case of him trying to find. He was a good guy during the time when his stocks were high. He had everything. Like it was not just like they were just saying he was good. He was actually very good. He had everything. He had a scoring run. But I think if he wants to discover himself again, he to probably not be at Everton. It should probably be at another club. Maybe a Villa. A Villa could probably just throw in a cheeky bid and put him on their books. If maybe they do eventually sell, what's the name, Watkins, which I don't know. But Lewin, DCL staying at Everton is a 50-50% chance. So two players that could be leaving are DCL and what's his name, Gerard Brathwaite for me.
All right, guys. Well, spoiler alert. Actually, for Calvert-Lewin, his contract ends in June this month, at the end of this month. And I mean, so far so good. We've not heard anything in terms of an extension. So most likely he'll be leaving on a free transfer. I mean, just like Rafa said, he's 28 years old right now. He has his last 2 seasons at Everton were absolutely terrible in terms of the fact that he missed a good number of games. In fact, this season was more impressive for me. He had 26 appearances, but the numbers don't translate the number of appearances. He was only able to score 3 goals and contributed with 2 assists. And then sometimes even when he's in form, he can be. He's one striker who misses a lot of chances. For a striker who doesn't score a good number of goals, he does miss a lot of chances. Because when you think about the best strikers in the world or the best strikers ever, they do miss big chances as well. They do miss. I think the difference is that the big strikers, they miss big chances. You wouldn't say they miss a lot of chances, but the average strikers do miss a lot of chances. And I think Calvert-Lewin, with all due respect to him, I think he's pretty much still an average striker for me. I don't think he really ever broke the ceiling of someone who left from Sheffield United to come to Everton. He still looks like a mid-table striker to me. And maybe him not extending his contract with Everton might be a good thing for him and his career. But one man that we can definitely all agree on is Gerard Braithwaite. I mean, even before the start of this season that just concluded, he was on the shopping list of a good number of teams: Liverpool, Manchester United, Chelsea as well. And then his stocks have increased as he got a cap with the English national team, talking about the Three Lions. So definitely, Jared Braithwaite is one to look out for this summer. And I think he's one person that can bring Everton a lot of money, to be honest. So let's see what happens for Everton this summer. In 14th position, or rather, before we move on to 14th position, I think another reason why it's going to be an important summer transfer window for Everton is the fact that David Moyes is back, right? He did
Yeah.
a good job for them in being able to help them steady the ship. This new Everton owners, they would know what David Moyes was able to achieve at West Ham. Winning the Conference League was a huge deal. In my own opinion, I don't even think West Ham should have gotten rid of David Moyes, but obviously they wanted to move forward to the next level. But I don't think they were patient enough because they simply didn't have the enough quality players to move them to the next level. But hey, it worked out for David Moyes at the end of the day. And I do think that these new owners of Everton would be able to ensure someone like David Moyes and back him up this summer. So watch out for Everton this summer. Watch out for their summer signings. So yeah, moving swiftly over to the 14th position, talking about West Ham. Under Graham Potter now. Yes, he hasn't spent a lot of time there, but I mean, he was able to help them secure Premier League status, which seemed to be difficult under David Moyes. From David Moyes, they switched to um, the Spanish man. I've forgotten his name at the moment. He came over from the man who he's coached Wolverhampton Lopetegui. Thank you very much, my producer. Yeah, I know Lopetegui. He coached Wolverhampton Wanderers for a period of time as well, and then he's left as well. So they didn't start out well under Lopetegui. It was difficult for them. And then now with Graham Potter, he found a way to manage the team. But considering signings that have been made in the past, considering what they've been able to achieve in the past as well, who is one West Ham should sell this summer transfer window? Chris?
Yeah. Yeah. Looking at their squad, I thought that Bowen, their captain, clearly did. Honestly, I always liked Jared Bowen, and he probably overperformed this season, but he did an amazing job for them. And they recently bought in a new young Brazilian winger from Palermo, which we sometimes those are hit or miss, but sometimes they're phenomenal. It's 19-year-old Luis Guilherme, and so with that acquisition and the fact that Jared Bowen's just not going anywhere and he's been playing out of his mind, and I think that you could get a good amount of value from Mohamed Kudus because he's not a bad player. He plays really good. I think a lot of honestly, I like when I see him play. And he's relatively young. He's 24 years old. He's still got 3 years left on his contract. So you could probably get like 50 million, maybe less, 40, 50 million at the right club. So looking and honestly, like, I mean, like a couple of years ago, I would have been saying like Thomas Suchek. I always liked how he played, and I thought he would have been going somewhere. Lucas Paqueta, I thought he would have been moving on at some point as well. But I think they still can do a job, and they kind of still need them. So I'm just looking at Kudus is at that level, but they just don't need him as much now, bringing in a little bit of cover for Jared Bowen, and Jared Bowen just still doing an amazing job. So I think it would be a good shout to get a lot of money in. Still perform at a decent level. So that's a pick that I was looking at, and I think it makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Rafa?
Yeah, that's actually a very good shot. Like kudos for West Ham. West Ham actually, I'll say it's been if you say it's a season to forget. Let me just put it that way for them, because a team like West Ham, they probably thought like this season. Normally, like I was saying something before. I said something before about like most London clubs. Most London clubs, they are like very settled in the Premier League. So a case where you're seeing West Ham being around the flirting around the relegation zone is will I say is it was something of a cause of a worry for all of them. Yes, they finished 14th, but for a good part of the season, they were around the 17th, 16th, 17th, 16th, and you look at that and you say, wow, this is just very, very bad. They made some signings with, let me say, part of the Declan Rice money. They made some signings. I think they got, what's his name? Nicholas Fulkrug, the German guy. He's been a disappointment. Still, they're still looking up to Jared Bowen for anything. If today you call any, if you meet any West Ham fan, they need help from anyone, it's still their captain, Bowen. Fulkrug has been a disappointment. Kufa has been a disappointment. And you look at if they're going to sell anyone, like he said, Kudus is one guy, okay, you could say he could fetch them at least a 50 or 60 even. If they're trying to even push it to that, okay, let's just say maybe a Saudi club probably comes in for him. They'll probably tilt it towards like a 60. So someone like a Kudus is a guy that he could be on the market any day, anytime for West Ham, which I know could possibly very much happen because now they're not happy with the season that just happened, and if they're trying to get better next season, they'll probably need reinforcements, and the ones that are there are not good enough. Even you look at the striker, what's his name, Danny Ings. He's still at West Ham. He earns a lot of money. He doesn't even start. He doesn't even come from the bench. He doesn't even play. He's just there, and he's earning over like almost 200 or 150,000 pounds a week. Doesn't do anything. So you look at if they're trying to sell players, yeah, most of all these players are going to be up for sale. Fulkrug, Ings, Kofa. But if there's anyone that you say, okay, yes, West Ham are trying to generate some money, definitely Mohamed Kudus. Kudus definitely is a guy that will get some money for them at the club if they're trying to do a bit of a rebuild next season with the with the horror season. Let me excuse my friend, the horror season they had. So definitely like a Kudus definitely looks like someone that I would say is the most likely to sell for West Ham with the way things are going if they're looking. Okay.
Yeah, guys, brilliant. Yeah, for West Ham, it would make a lot of sense to sell Mohamed Kudus. I honestly did not see Mohamed Kudus ending up in West Ham, but I think Arsenal is to blame for that and their transfer policies and strategy. Arsenal is one team that does not want to get in a bidding war. They don't want to pay an amount excessively for a player who they feel is valued less. And at the end of the day, West Ham was able to pay up, and he did go to West Ham, and he had a brilliant debut season. I think last season, one of the major reasons why he didn't perform optimally was due to the constant changing of his position. He played right wing, played left wing, played as a 9, played as a 10. And then when you just keep changing and popping the position of the player, obviously it would affect the player. Changing managers as well didn't help either. But I do think that Mohamed Kudus is a quality player, top level player that can add. That would be a great addition to any top 16, in my opinion. He would give a good account of himself. Jared Bowen definitely, I don't think would be going anywhere. Being the club captain, I think Bowen, despite the potential that we know he has, or the qualities that he has, I just think he just seems like that player that would not perform at a high level club, because we've seen him when he has put on the England shirt, and there is a drop in quality in comparison to other wingers or other forwards from other clubs when Jared Bowen goes ahead to play for England. So Mo Kudus is probably the one that would fetch them the most money. Other players that might be seeking, new clubs, Nicholas Fulkrug, as Rafa mentioned, that's someone who should be looking forward to playing for another club. Maybe if we could cash in on Saudi, if anyone in Saudi is interested in Nicholas Fulkrug at this point, it would be a good idea for him. Danny Ings might not want to leave. Danny Ings is probably just enjoying himself with the good wages and putting in good performances whenever he plays. That's just Danny Ings. Yeah. But I think West Ham is another team to look out for. It's going to be Graham Potter's first season, at the London Stadium, and we know everyone knows Potter is a good coach, but he needs to be equipped, and I think West Ham is a good place for him to revive his career. To be honest, after his disaster class at Chelsea. But yeah, moving on swiftly to 15th position, talking about Manchester United. Yeah, they were lucky to end up in 15th position, because I mean they were dancing between 16th and 17th. But somehow they were able to rescue a 15th place position. Um, Look, I don't need to go into details into how terrible of a season United had, and yeah, they've got Ruben Amorim at the helm. He's about to have his first summer transfer window and his first full season as the coach of Manchester United. So, guys, who should Manchester United get rid of? Chris, and then Rafa can go in immediately after.
I'm gonna be honest. This is probably the hardest one to look at because they should sell all their players. But I mean, yeah, it was insane watching them this season. Like you think on paper, it's like, okay, you got. I mean, to be fair, Christian Andersen didn't do that bad, and obviously their captain did pretty much the level that he's been doing for a while. But I mean, like they have great players, and to finish in 15th place is just a skill in itself to do that. So it's hard to choose one. Rasmus Højlund was someone I was looking at that is, still young, could still probably get some money, and he's just, I don't even think anywhere been close to like how they hoped he would perform when they brought him in. He's still young though, so I don't know if they want to keep him. I know they've been honestly playing Xerxes up top a lot more, so he's just not even getting game time. So that's kind of up there on my list that I was thinking about a lot. But I mean, again, like there's so many players. I mean, Garnacho is not performing like he was when he was first person out on the scene when he was a teenager. He's also insanely young, only 20 years old. So you can get a good amount of money there. Really, I mean, Kobe Mano. I mean, similar thing. Like I think
Kobe.
I don't. There's two. I when I think of Kobe Mano, I think because I just think. Listen, I mean, the most important part of a team is the midfield, right? You need a solid midfield to really be competitive, and to have Bruno and at least him, and you get like one. I mean, I know they have they've been saying God, what's his name? Hold on. They're DM. Sometimes I blank on names. Sometimes the DM from Real Madrid.
Casemiro.
Thank you. Yeah. Like how many years have I seen him play? So yeah, I don't. I think they need to move on with him too because I just don't think he's got the legs to play in the Prem. Even when they first bought him, it kind of felt like that.
Massive wages.
Yeah, the massive wages as well, right? Like, I mean, with all their players. Harry Maguire, I don't know what's going on with Harry Maguire. Like, how is he still there? And the fact that not just still there, not the fact that Harry Maguire is still there, that he's playing regularly now. He's been playing. He hasn't been doing terrible. I'll admit, right? I think he scored some goals. He's gotten his great sort of header goals on set pieces, which is kind of what he was doing back at Leicester. But I mean, the fact that he's just even still there is baffling to me. So I don't know what Manchester United are doing. They really need to revamp.
Same with Evans. At some point, I saw Johnny Evans starting for Man United. I'm like,
Johnny Evans.
What is this?
It's crazy. Honestly, they need to sell their whoever is in charge of their buying and selling players. That's who they need to sell. They need to get rid of the administration involved in making these decisions. I think that's who they need to sell if I really wanted to pick somebody. But for me, again, it's such a hard choice. But I like Garnacho. I don't like selling young players that I think he could still have, one bad season. I think he didn't have a great season this season, but he's had like good ones prior, and I don't really want them to sell him unless he wants to move. I don't really know. Rasmus Højlund, no. I think honestly, since he's joined, he just hasn't been good, and he's still young and still has value. So I'm gonna go with Højlund. I think is gonna be my pick. But it's really tough. You could pick anybody, and it'd all be a good shout probably. Mason Mount, I think Mason Mount's on huge wages too. I don't know why he never got played, like, because he was amazing on Chelsea. I thought he was phenomenal when he was playing for Chelsea under Frank Lampard, and when I saw that he wasn't getting game time at Chelsea and he moved to United, okay, maybe he'll get game time here and start playing and get back to that old form, but that didn't happen. I don't know what went on with him, but yeah, I'll just make a choice. I'll go with Højlund.
That's good. For myself, looking at Man United, if I start talking about Man United now, like I never finish with them, and it's something that you always talk about, one problem from one to the other. And for Man United, like what he was saying, I think it's more of like inside. It's not even just the players. You look at even down to like the recruitments, down to everything about the club is bad. When I say bad, I mean like Man United are just outright bad. Down to the Glazers. The Glazers normally they didn't even care about the club basically. Like they had no interest whatsoever in the club, and they just let the club just run on vibes, do your thing. And they did that for years. That's actually why the Man United we saw kept dying in our eyes. Like we were talking about something before in the beginning, like a lot of players, like if they're trying to make a move or something, like they will always still they pick Man United, yes, because it's the name of the club, but every year it gets worse. And that's the issue with the whole club. Like it's just not just what you see on the outside, it's the inside down, from the management down to the recruitment, down to every single thing. Like it's bad. And you saw the Glazers did not even care about the club, and the best thing they did was to give it to a man that has no single affection or anything for the club, and he said he should take the run-ins of the club. That's the Ratcliffe, what's his name, Jim guy. He doesn't even give a toss about the club. He's more of a, he's very stingy when it comes to anything with the club, and it now still, it's now been applied to how their recruitment has been in the last 3 years. It's why they're in a very, very big issue. They've had I would say maybe two managers. I wouldn't want to include Ole per se, but it's more of like Ten Hag's team. Ten Hag, they had a manager that he wasn't so good. The whole Ajax team, I mean, going back down, looking at the Ajax team from 2019, the whole team has been shit. The manager, the players, every single one of them that made a transfer from that 2019 Ajax UCL run, they're all bad. There's no good thing you could write about those players from that 2019 Ajax side. Down, you see the midfield, the defenders, the striker, all of them. There's no one good player in that team. I don't know how they scammed their way to a Champions League semi-final, but that one is by the ways. But I think just that run was like, was like a domino effect. It let a lot of clubs have a lot of bad transfers. People started buying all their players. Like they shopped from that Ajax team down to the manager. The manager on his own, I wouldn't say he's not shit, but he's not good. He's more of like a very average guy, and that's why Ajax is more like his level. It's not like a Premier League. Premier League is not his level, and he's come to a Man United club. He tried to have his way with the whole transfers and everything, and I would say the last three transfer windows at Man United have set the club back 10 years. It's a long because he was thinking about the players they could sell. You cannot just say one. It's not just one. It's not two. It's not three. It's not four. There's so many players to sell at Man United at the moment. And it's down to Ten Hag signings. All of them have been rubbish. Every single one. You look at Zexi. You look at Højlund. Højlund can't even make a first touch. It's so bad. Mason Mount. You look at what's the name? You look at Anthony. Anthony has been having fun in the La Liga.
I was just thinking about him. Yeah, I forgot about Anthony, and honestly, he might be a good because you could probably get at least some of that money back because he's been killing it over there. You could. It's not it's the system at the club. It's not the players, apparently. Yeah,
guys, it's starting to turn into a roast session for United. Come on.
No, because like I said, if you're trying to look at the players they could sell, like you cannot just say one player. I promise you. That's why he had a hard time trying to figure out just one player. There's so many of them. Like you go down to the midfield. You look at my producer was saying Kobe Minu. Kobe Minu, yeah, you could sell him to raise money, but I wouldn't want to say you should sell him because I think with the way things are going at the club, Minu is probably the only player that has any connection with the club. You see how it is with Chelsea, Reece James. See how it is with Arsenal, Bukayo Saka. There's usually just that one player from the academy that at least the fans, even though the player has to be very good. That's the thing that I see with Mino. Mino is probably just that only player at Man United. With the right manager, he could be a world-class player. Like he's had a lot of flashes of brilliance in him. But with the new manager they got now, you're looking at it. That's the thing about it now. The new manager now is trying to implement a different style. He's trying to bring a 3 at the back, let's say formation back to the Premier League. So now it's affecting all the players that Ten Hag actually brought in, and which the players here they haven't been great per se, but they can't even play the new manager's tactics. They can't even play this new style he's trying to push in. You look at what's his name. You see Mino. Mino is not playing the way he wants. He's trying to pull like a pivot or whatever. Ugarte, thank God we also the Champions League final yesterday, and we saw what Ugarte was competing with at PSG. But that being aside, you go down to the defense. You look, you can even see the manager actually put Mino as a number 9.
Yeah, but I mean, rightly so, guys. I think one thing is factual from both Chris and our producer Anu, which is the fact that Mino seems not to fit into the system of Amorim. So why not just find him a better home, or why not just sell him off to a team that's going to keep him? But Rafa's point is also valid. At the end of the day, first of all, in terms of rules, every Premier League team needs a certain quota of players from the academy. What you consider as home players, right? So United obviously will be thinking about that, and then the fact that you want players who have come through the academy, who know and understand what it means to represent United, you want that as well. But really, I'm not really going to consider that second aspect, that second point, because I think United has had a very deep rot in their system. So it's not even like the young players coming from the academy are really, really looking forward to representing the club. They might just be looking at United right now as a platform to regular first-team football somewhere else, But I think the most important thing right now going into this transfer window is the fact that Amorim needs to be backed up. The same way, if they could back up, Ten Hag, you need to do the same with Amorim. In my own opinion, if you give Ten Hag, about £600 million to go recruit his old team, give Amorim the 600. Money. Yeah, I mean, across the 2 seasons that Ten Hag was in charge of the team for. But I think it's right to give Amorim. Give him that support. Get the players that will actually execute his system of football very well. That's just the truth. Because when you take a look at this United side from every position, they actually need new players in every position to be able to execute this formation flawlessly. Because we watched them for 6 months under Amorim playing in this formation, and you just know that this formation executed in a better way with other teams, right? So I think it's only fair that you back him up going into the transfer window. So I think
if you're saying backing him, I'm looking at the fact that if it doesn't work out for him, the next manager is going to be left with his dross. It's the same thing that's happened to Amorim. Amorim now is left with all the rubbish that Ten Hag put at the club, down to even the other guy, a reject, a guy that. Yeah, and the thing about that's the problem with Ten Hag. Ten Hag kept buying his own players. What's the name? The CB, the centre back they got from Juventus. From Bayern? What's his name? De Ligt. Yeah. Like these players are not good, and that's the thing. But he said that these are the only players he needs to implement the style he had at what's the name Ajax. He brought
Yeah.
Anthony. He started buying even up Dutch. They started turning the club to like a semi-Dutch club. Bringing. They brought even the other guy. What's his name? They brought Xerxes. Brought that's one of that guy he got again. They got
I mean, he got Amrabat in at a point in time. Ten Hag was basically going after players that had played for him.
That played for him. Like he typed even Malasia, the wing back. He got to match. Like none of these players now are gonna work for the next manager. And it's the same thing. Like, so the only thing I look at is the fact that, okay, yes, you cannot just say something that's on the outward. It's something more of like it's a recruitment thing. So I don't know how it is at most clubs, but if you had seen the final yesterday, yes, PSG spent a lot of money, but PSG actually set they set like a precedent that I feel most clubs should follow, the way they spend. Because right now, like the PSG, why you look at the transfer, why you look at PSG transfers, why you see it very inflated is because they had a different system. But in recent years now, they brought in like Luis Campos, yes, a very, very good sporting director. And that's what his job is. His job is transfers. That is it, like bringing the best talents in the world. And his own is just to see if they fit into this style or that style. And that's why Enrique's job is just to manage them. That's what it is. Enrique hasn't been buying his players. Enrique hasn't been buying people that he wasn't even buying like Spanish players per se, because he was Spain's coach for a while. Even after you're looking at his Barcelona era, that was a long time. He was Spain's coach at least in the last 4 years. But he wasn't just looking at maybe Spanish. He was trying. He just let the sporting director to do his thing, and that's how you can see at PSG now. They have a squad that's littered with just under 23s. That all the best players in the world, every single one of them. All technicians, both legs, everything, and it's the way the manager wants. Because I think someone like Enrique looks the kind of style he wants to play. He's looking for players that like to keep the ball and also press, and that is what Luis Campos did for him. And that is what I feel most clubs should try and follow. Try and get a very good sporting director. And Man United have not had that per se. You're letting a manager be the sporting director is actually very bad. At Chelsea, when Chelsea were like, okay, like just going back to my club, there was when the ownership took over. Yes, the Bowley guy, when he took over initially, he tried to make Thomas Tuchel the sporting director, or let's say Bowley tried to make himself sporting director, but he tried to make Thomas Tuchel in charge of most of the transfers. And Tuchel, yes, was just buying his players, and none of them ended up bad. I'm even talking about just before he left. He brought in Sterling, brought in Lukaku, brought in what's the name? We were just bringing in Fofana. A lot of players that didn't even work for the club on the long term, but the manager said, yes, this is what Aubameyang, yes. The manager said, this is what I need, this is what I want. Well, it wasn't working. If you have like a good sporting director at the club, it will work for you. That's my own opinion, basically. It's not more of like trying to, because someone like Amorim, I don't know, there's a big red flag around him. Like, I don't know per se, but he may be that guy. I actually want him to prove me wrong. Yeah, I actually want him. But my deepest gut feeling is telling me that he's probably getting sacked at some point next season. The way I'm looking at him, because if a manager at a club like Man United feels push this thing, I think for a long period this season their ceiling was 16th. They were 16th, 15th. Every time you check the table, they're always 15th, 16th, 17th. I even thought they were going to finish 17th. If not that, okay, yes, they finished 15th on the last day. On the last day with some extra help that these guys had to get a red card, Aston Villa. If not, they could have finished 17th. But it's still down to the fact that the manager couldn't do so well with what he had. And it's a big red flag on his own part. I won't even lie for that. It's a very big red flag. If at all, if any manager needs certain players, and nobody is telling him to get top 5 with Man United, or if what, at least is Man United, get top 10. Top 10 should be minimum. Top half of the table should be the min. Even when you call a big club, any of the big 6 sides, when you're talking about a bad season, top 10 should be what you call a bad season. Yeah, he went to Malaysia and lost. He lost to part-time workers, plumbers, people that use football for. They probably got back from work just to change it for that game. He went down to Malaysia and lost home, away, far away. He's losing everywhere. But like I said, it's a very big red flag. Man United is their problem, but still, my own is every club should try and get like a sporting director, because trying to do the thing about letting a manager just sign all his players, and at the end of the day, something goes wrong, you sack the manager, a new manager comes in and he's left with dross. He's left with players that can't even do basics. Like, if you get what I mean, and it's why a lot of times the Barcelona, forget my this thing, Barcelona of old actually always did well. Barcelona actually had a philosophy, which was La Masia or whatever. And during the period, they got so many managers. I think they got Pep, got what's the name? What's the one that died? I've forgotten his name.
Tito
Yeah,
Villanova.
Tito. They all won the league that period. Enrique, they were all winning. Like, he never changed anything because the club actually just had a philosophy. And it was you as a manager, you come in and just work with what you have and try and implement your ideas with this is what they have, and this is how the style of play it is. Just try and implement your ideas with that, and it works for you. Not that you come in and try and start everything from scratch and burn everything to that. It's, in my opinion, with the way football is, like, you look at the way clubs are today. You look at some managers. If they told a Chelsea fan 2 years ago that Tuchel will be sacked, no one would believe it. But that's how it is with football. A lot of managers, no one stays in the game, no matter how well the person is doing. You look in 2 years from now, the person could get sacked. Same thing, Ancelotti at Madrid. Last year, he literally just won 2 Champions League with them in like 3 years. 2 Champions League in 4 years. And you probably be thinking like someone like this man is untouchable. But this season happened and they were not happy. Madrid were so eager to let him go. They told him, you could, like, we're trying to move on from you. So, and it was only good that Brazil were looking for a manager. If not, he could have had a sack on his CV. And that's what it is. A lot of, like, no one in the way football is, like, any manager could be changed. Like, that's how it is. But if a club has a system or philosophy in place, it helps you. And that's what's killing Man United. Like, Man United, their own is the fact that the manager, yes, I know he didn't do well, but still, it's still down to, like, the recruitment and management at the club. Amorim, yes, he's what's his name?
Your rant is crazy right now. we could go up to an hour, keep on roasting United. We need to move on from United. But trust me, you've done justice to it. I don't need to say anything further. You guys share your comments with us. Especially United fans. Let's know how you really feel about your club. Let's know if you want the whole team changed and signed, and sacked or sold, and then you get a fresh new squad. Because a lot of us neutrals are, even at this point in time, we're actually worried about Manchester United because they've been one of the best teams that we all watched growing up. We know there's such a huge history and heritage with the club, and even though we don't support the team, it would be sad just for the history of football to see a team like United just run down to the shiver. So hopefully, maybe things start working at United. But if they're going to keep suffering, I really don't mind. Yeah, I already said on this platform I'm an Arsenal fan, so all the best to United. Moving on swiftly, guys. 16th position, Wolverhampton Wanderers. Another steady club that we're all aware of. They've already sold Matheus Cunha to Manchester United. That's been confirmed today, during this recording. And, they've got other standout players who maybe might be making their way out of the team. Players that have helped to basically just steady the ship despite the change in managers during the season. Bellegarde is one player that has been solid for them. Munetsi as well, the midfielder, has been solid for them. Strand Larsen has come up with good performances for them, and a good number of other players as well. Aït-Nouri had a fantastic individual season. I think he got up to double figures in terms of assists. He's one person who is on the books of Manchester City. He might be leaving as well. They already lost Mario Lemina in January, But Wolverhampton Wanderers 16th position. They've been in the Premier League, what now, for a good number of years, almost 10 years. So they are starting to create their own Premier League history and folklore. So what do you guys think for who should they be selling this season, or rather this summer?
Yeah, no, those are all good shouts. I actually had someone in mind that you did not mention. So Jose Sarr, their goalkeeper. They just brought in a new goalkeeper, Sam Johnson, I think, was the name. Yeah, for 11 mil. Johnson. Yeah. So, and we know, from my own club experience, you don't want 2 number 1 goalkeepers on your books. It just does not work. I don't know how anyone could ever think it will. So they have to be thinking about moving him on. I don't see him being a second choice. I mean, he was really. I mean, his value was a lot better. Again, one of these players that was doing work and really. I think his stop shotting rate or his clean sheets was really high a couple seasons ago. He had a pretty high market value. But yeah, definitely not at that level anymore. A couple years down the road now, and yeah, with this new acquisition, I think they just need to think about moving him on. So that would be
Rafa,
my
I think you just said they got what's his name, Matthews Cunha, Man United. So that's one person they've sold already. If there's any other person I probably think about, it's probably like Wong Hee Chan, the Korean guy. He's another good attacker. I feel probably will get he'll probably generate a lot of money for them if they're trying to raise some money. And he's a good player. He's got good Premier League experience, but he didn't have a very good season per se, down to his standards. His Wong Hee Chan is a player I know that normally if at all you're an FPL guy, you know that he probably puts in numbers. Him, Doherty, there's some what's the name? I said Doherty. There's some players at Wolves normally you're trying to put in for FPL. Cunha generally was one guy, then Wong Hee Chan. I feel normally he'll probably leave at the end of the season. And he also said Jose Sa as well. He's been there for a while, and I think he's probably at this point with the World Cup coming up next year. A lot of players will. Okay, I don't think he could displace Diogo Costa, but still, he looks like someone at least with lots of Premier League experience that could be moving on this season from Wolverhampton Wanderers. So that is one for me.
All right then. So yeah, that's it for Wolverhampton Wanderers. They probably made their biggest sale that they could have made this summer with Matheus Cunha. So if you're looking elsewhere for them to rake up some profit or to rake in money, Chan, what he mentioned, Aït-Nouri as well, is a worthy mention considering the type of season he did have. Moving over to 17th position, which is weird. The winners of the Europa League, winners of the Europa League in 17th position in the EPL. It is what it is. Talking about Tottenham Hotspur. In the famous words of I'm supposed to Koglu, he did say, in my second season, I usually do win things, and he went ahead to do that with Spurs and then winning the Europa League. It was a terrible Premier League season for them, 17th position. Some of their huge major signings, or rather, in terms of names anyway, that they did make, they didn't really hit the ground running. Dominic Solanke and Timo Werner as well, who obviously has been confirmed now. He's gone back to Leipzig. So yeah, Spurs had a terrible season in the EPL, but who do you guys think they should sell, considering the fact that they will be competing in the Champions League next season, and obviously them winning the Europa League?
I just want to point out, I think honestly, them winning that is probably the worst thing for them because they're probably not going to fire. They're not going to part ways with Postecoglou, and clearly there are issues. I mean, you don't finish 17th in the Premier League as a top 6 team if there aren't really big issues with the club, but I think this trophy is going to sort of have people look the other way. And so because of that, it might be a sort of a double-edged sword, I guess, right? Like it's you're in the Champions League, it's great, but you're going to stick with the same guy, you're going to stick with the same system, and it's why would you think anything is going to be different? I don't know. But yeah, I was looking at their club. Someone that's been coming to mind, honestly, for a while that I've thought they should sell is Richarlison. I think he needs to go. I think he was great on Everton. They bought him. I feel like he's had small moments at Spurs doing a job when he's filled in, and maybe he's had some injury issues, but it's just, again, like the inconsistency. It's crazy how like so many of these clubs there's just a shortage of top strikers, right? And it seems like we all need them. Dominic Solanke doesn't seem to be that guy. Charleston doesn't seem to be that guy. I think they really need to go on the market and find one that is going to be that guy. I think I would sell Richarlison. I would say like keep one of those two, right? And I would sell Richarlison and then try and find somebody else so that you have a little bit of depth up there so that you can compete in the Champions League. But yeah, that would be my pick. Charleston needs to go.
Yeah, okay, Richarlison. Okay, it's a good pick. For Tottenham, just like you said, Tottenham being in the Champions League is a good and bad thing. The good thing is, they get a lot of money for being in the Champions League. The bad thing is, it will probably expose everything that's been happening at the club. The fact that they're going to meet like very, very good decent sides, and they're not going to be meeting sides like Bodo Glimt or a ship Man United side again in the Champions League. So that's the bad thing about it. And the fact that a lot of their players have been underwhelming this season, you can see that they won the Europa League against Man United, and 3 days after they got pumped 4-1 by Brighton. So you could even see that it's a stark difference between them and an average top 10 side in the Premier League. That's just how it is. And the way it is looking at Tottenham is like they are actually way, way, way behind. If they're going to sell anyone, they will probably need to sell most of their squad, most of their players. I'll probably look at their captain, Son. Son on his own, he's on massive, massive wages. He doesn't even play anymore for them. He doesn't even start. He can't even do anything. I don't even think he runs anymore. Son, Son, at some point, I used to feel he could get you certain kind of goals. Son just misses. I think everything started from that time last season when he missed that chance against that one against Manchester City, and it's been going downhill for him since that day. Like all season, it's been shit throughout. Like all season, he's never had like even a purple patch at any point this season. So if there's anyone, probably Son normally, and he's done what he needed to do. He's a legend right now at Tottenham. They've won a trophy finally, but I think it's probably time for him to move on. Him or Richarlison, the way it's looking, definitely Son or Richarlison. But most likely, my gut will probably say like a Son, because he's old now, and Son doesn't do the Son I watched in the last couple of games for Tottenham. It's not the Son we knew. So I think if they're going to start a massive rebuilding, they should start with him and with his massive high wages. Definitely, that is Son for me.
For sure. I mean, both Richarlison and Son are worthy mentions, considering the fact that if either one of them leave, they would first of all, help them profit-wise in terms of market value of selling the player, and then freeing up the wages, and possibly opening up room for better players that would help to improve the squad, honestly, if they're going to compete. So I'm moving over swiftly now to the bottom three of the Premier League, starting off with Leicester City, who finished in 18th position under Ruud van Nistelrooy. It was a disappointing season for Leicester City, to be honest. I think the fact that they lost a good number of 30 points from winning position in the Premier League, and I think that just says a lot. I think they had one or two standout players who were, for me, good Premier League fits, considering the fact that they've got Premier League experience. But I just think the squad as a whole was not prepared to compete in the Premier League. But at the end of the day, Ruud van Nistelrooy was not able to save them from their demise, and then finished off the season with 25 points. They're going back to the Championship once again. They know what it takes to obviously survive in the Championship, and that first of all starts from a huge sale. So who should be that big name player that Leicester City should sell this summer transfer window?
I wish Jamie Vardy would just stay there forever and play football forever. But I think he's leaving this season on a free. I just wanted to make note of that. I hate him, not seeing him at that. Honestly, that whole Leicester team should have never left. I wish they all stayed there. I wish N'Golo Kante was still on Leicester. But I mean, God, it's tough. So what comes to my mind is, I guess I'm just straight up Wilfred Ndidi. Another one of those players that, again, maybe like 3, 4, 5 pandemic era, 3-4 years ago. I know a lot of clubs were looking at him. I think maybe Spurs were looking at him at one time. I mean, a lot of top 6 clubs were looking at him. It was, thought to be like a really good defensive midfielder, but really hasn't been that guy. They have Boubacar Samare, who was on loan in Sevilla. Honestly, just having somebody, loan spells could be good, and when you come back and you're just not a part of the team that clearly has not been doing well, it's almost like you get a new signing back, and so maybe he could sort of shore up that defense, because as you said, something about them just losing points from winning positions is not good. So and I don't think Ndidi has been really doing a good job there. So to shore that up a little bit and maybe take control of the game towards the end and maintain possession so that stuff doesn't happen. They maybe give Samare a shout, looked at other players. It looks like they just got Oliver Skip as well. I never really liked him. I don't know if he's really going to do a good job, but it's tough with these lower teams that clearly, I mean, I don't think any 3 of them were even, I mean, how long was it that they were all just relegated? There wasn't even like a battle till the end of the season. They were all just like not up to par to stay in the Prem. But I think Wilfred Ndidi, he's in his prime. You could probably get some good money for them. He's not like, his value's still pretty high. So if you want to sort of recoup some stuff and rebuild a little bit, it might be a good shout.
Yeah, okay. That's a good shout. Indeed, you said. If there's anyone I'm looking at, let's start. Okay, let me just say, look, let's start this season had a very, very, very bad season. It's the thing. I think it's been happening with the last 3-4 years in the Premier League with these teams from the Championship. It's like a cycle, rinse and repeat. You go up, you go down, you go up, you go down, and it's the same thing Leicester have done. Last 2 seasons they were in the Premier League. Last season they were not in the Premier League. They were in the Championship. This season that just finished now, back in the Premier League. Next season they're going to They're going back down to the Championship. So it's been very inconsistent, and I would just say that they've been very inconsistent. Like there's been very inconsistent with most of all these teams, and Leicester per se have been on their own been very inconsistent in the Premier League. I always see Leicester as a top 10 side in the Premier League. They've done a lot. They're the only mid-table club I'll say that has done anything or everything that any of the clubs will dream of. They won the Community Shield, won the FA Cup, won the Premier League, and that is something that will last with them for a lifetime. But the Premier League that they just had has been on their own level, big disappointment, and that's down to the fact that Jamie Vardy is an old guy. He's old. His grandpa. He's been there for them. He saved them time and time. But this year he couldn't do it anymore. I saw the kind of chances he missed, and you just say, "Wow, Vardy's he's washed," and that's why he's leaving at the end of the season. And if there's any player, I'll say probably that they should move on, because Vardy generally has already left. If there's any player I'll probably look at, they should probably look at moving on from is Patson Daka. Patson Daka has been very, very. I would say he's not been good. He's not good enough. Let me just put that as it is. And with Vardy leaving, he's not the guy to replace Vardy, basically. At some point, they had when they were in the chat, they had a Kelechi. Kelechi was always there, and he was going band. He was trying to match up with Vardy. But you see, Daka, since they got Daka in the last 3-4 years, he's been outright bad. And now that Vardy is leaving, trying to leave goal scoring just to Patson Daka is going to be a very, very big issue for them if they're going to make it back to the Premier League. So I'll probably say if there's anyone they should probably look at moving on. At most, it should be Patson Daka. He's not good. He's not Premier League level, and definitely I don't even think He's not top flight level for anything in England, English football. When he was at Leipzig, he was doing whatever. He came down to England and he hasn't been able to make the cuts. So I say definitely Daka should be one of the players they're moving on from. And that is it. With Vardy already, he's done his farewell. He's gone, and he's a legend of the Premier League, definitely. And yeah, definitely they should be looking at someone that should step. They should be looking at someone to replace his goals, if at all they should make it back to the Premier League next season. That's my take.
For Chris, it was Wilfred Ndidi. For Rafa, it's Patson Daka. And honestly, both solid shouts. I think both players, it's probably the right time for them to leave the club. When they got relegated the last time, both players went down with them and then they came back up again. I don't think any player would honestly be willing to go through that again. I think it's time for Leicester City to have like a proper transition, a proper build up again. So even I do think that maybe getting relegated might be a blessing in disguise for them. They need to change the team, they need to refresh the team, and they need to bring in players, who would be willing to fight for the team to take them back up, basically. A lot of players that could be sold, and a lot of players that could be let go for free as well. But they would want to make some money from these sales, and I think Wilfred Ndidi is the most high profile player amongst everyone that they have at the moment. Really, considering the players that they had in their ranks. Caleb Okoli is another one you mentioned. That's someone that could bring in good money for them. He's an Italian centre back and he's pretty decent. And to be honest, the goalkeeper as well. He had for an individual, I think he had a good season. There were so many times where he produced. I think Behrman is his name. There were so many times he produced great individual saves. So that's someone as well, who could probably be sold for good money. But moving over swiftly to Ipswich Town in 19th position as we try and wrap this up as soon as possible. Ipswich Town, yeah, under Kieran McKenna, disappointing season for them. Their first season back in the Premier League since what? Since '97, if I'm not mistaken, and it was quite disappointing. Even though once in a while they did show flashes of brilliance, but obviously Ipswich Town gave a good platform to Liam Delap, who has now earned a move to Chelsea Football Club. So obviously he'll be playing at Chelsea next season. But they had other standout players who helped them to, should I say, compete at some certain level. There was Omari Hutchinson, there's Twan Zibi, and Co. But yeah, who do you guys feel Ipswich Town should sell this summer transfer window as they're headed back to the Championship? Chris?
Yeah, man, it's tough. It's tough with these. I would say, yeah. I mean, obviously, they're as you said, like Liam Delap was like a big star player for them, and clearly he's being offloaded and going. Who snapped him up? Was it Chelsea?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Chelsea.
Right? It's honestly not bad. I was definitely thinking about him for Arsenal too, to be looking at him, but just because it's nice to have Premier League experience. He clearly, if you're performing that well at a club that is, if you're playing that good at a club that isn't playing that good, then if you're playing at a good club that you're going to get probably more chances and all these things, there's a high ceiling that he could reach, and so yeah, that's probably a good buy for you guys. And if I think about, God, it's tough. I don't know. I'm just trying to remember like games that I saw that no one that it's because it's tough when a whole team when you're at the bottom and you can't really pinpoint one or two players that are like the sole reason for why a club isn't doing well, right? It's almost like the whole club itself, right?
Yeah.
So again,
But
it's like you gotta
the entire squad.
yeah, well, yeah, right. It's like you want to just offload everybody and redo from the start again, but clearly that can't happen. I don't know. I guess I don't really see too much of. I mean, he wasn't like terrible, but Jack Taylor was somebody that I had in mind. You could offload. I'm looking at like contract lengths too and older players. So Cameron Burgess, who's reaching his 30s, he's only got 1 year left, or I think maybe his contract even ends this year. It's right? Because like typically I'm like, okay, what do I want? Does their defense, midfield, forward line, what needs the most work? I don't want to do anything with their forward line just because they're obviously getting people. And like I said, I mean, I thought Amari Hutchinson was good. I always thought he was great too when I saw him in the youth league, and so I don't really want to mess around too much with that. But yeah,
He's
probably
your
looking at
boy. Hutchinson is your boy, yeah. I remember he was
he
asked. Then he moved
apparently
to
he
Chelsea.
used to
Yeah,
be.
Chelsea.
I know,
Chelsea
yeah.
got him.
Rafa now
Yeah.
Hutchinson is Arsenal's boy, but at Chelsea he couldn't cut it, to be honest. He couldn't cut it, and I was wondering why he just jumped at Chelsea.
Yeah, Chelsea just does. Chelsea, they know what to do with their youth acquisitions and how they formulate finances through that. They have a good system, right? They snap up players that are not either happy at other big six clubs. They're just like, hey, come to us, and then they'll sell them
Yeah,
immediately for profit.
we used to. We actually don't do that anymore. We used to. I remember when you're talking about like then all our youth team. You look at all the players we got them around from. Used to be like the youth teams of other
Loan
clubs. Then,
army.
boss. Yeah.
It really was.
And we now do
Yeah,
it without sending them on loan. Yeah, we do that thing where we send up to 45 players on loan now.
it
Ridiculous.
is kind of crazy. It's like I don't know how you don't upset so many players doing that, and it's just like, but I mean, there's definitely something to it. And but honestly, I'm gonna go with Cameron Burgess. I think they need to offload some dead weight in the defensive department. I mean, that's what you got to do. Honestly, Arteta saw that when he started Arsenal. It's like he really formulated stuff from the back. You got to build from the back. So when you got to rebuild things, get to start at the back. So yeah, let's offload some dead weight.
Fair enough. Cameron Burgess is a good shout. He's 29. He already played one good Premier League season for his standard. So yeah, it makes sense to let him go to create room for better players and younger players who can step up. Yeah.
Sure.
So Rafa?
You said Delap has gone to Chelsea. Yeah. I have mixed feelings about that transfer, though. But that one is that side. Yeah, very mixed feelings. Because he is. Yeah, you said at Chelsea probably he'll get better chances, but 12 Premier League goals and is a big risk. There's no in between with that transfer. It's either he's a hit or he's a miss. That's what it is. But that aside, Ipswich, they had I think the season before this, when they were in the Championship, they had a very good season. I remember before Chelsea got Enzo Maresca, Kenan McKenna was an option for Chelsea, and it was an option for Man United even. He was an option for a lot of clubs. I remember very well because I think according then he played the best football in the Championship. That's Ipswich, and they got to the Premier League and they got bypassed and everything. It was not just the same. You can see the level at the Premier League is far different from the Championship. And now this season they got relegated back. I think, they were a bit better than Leicester. No, I won't say, but they put up a fight. All the teams that got relegated this season were actually very shit, but still, they got relegated, and I think they will probably try to get back into the Premier League, and that is saying a lot of players. He said Cameron Burgess, if you're trying to do a rebuild, probably you start from the back. I probably also look at, what's his name? This guy they got from Man City, Calvin Phillips. Calvin Phillips, they got him, and I think in January, he has been mixed, decent. It's not like he really changed that much at the club, but still, I think Leeds will probably want to get him back now that they're in the Championship as well together. And I think Championship basically is his level. He knows how to play very well in that place. So if there's anyone that they will probably look to sell, it's probably Calvin Phillips. I'm looking at Calvin Phillips or Cameron Burgess, just like you said, which I know at Ipswich they'll probably try to do a rebuild. They're keeping the manager. He got them to the Premier League, and they feel he will be the same person to get them back into the Premier League again. So, Calvin Phillips, I'm looking at someone they could be looking to at selling, or just like you said, Cameron Burgess as well.
Yeah,
that is it for me.
I think considering the fact that Calvin Phillips was on loan, obviously they won't be getting any money for him. I think he'll be going back to Man City. So Man City will definitely they'll be looking forward to offloading Calvin Phillips, from their books. Considering the fact that they've already gone ahead to sign Nico Gonzalez in January, so definitely no future for Calvin Phillips at either Ipswich or Manchester City. And
Mhm.
For Ipswich, I think they've already sold the player that would make them the most money in
Yeah, Dilla.
in Liam Delap. So that's that on them. Finally, Southampton, who've gotten relegated.
Mhm.
I
12
already
points.
know. I already know who I think they should sell. That will bring them a lot of money. But over to you guys. I'm not going to speak much about them and their season. I would only say that Southampton managed to not be tied with Derby County as one of the worst teams in the history of Premier League football.
Early.
They only managed
Uh,
that by getting one more point higher than Derby County. Southampton just got 12 points. I remember Derby County that season and the type of goals that were scored against them. Absolutely outrageous. They had 11 points that season. But Southampton did one better and they celebrated it. Just getting 1 point ahead. And then going back to the championship. So over to you guys. Who should Southampton sell this summer? Chris?
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly kind of it's crazy when you see. I just feel bad for all those players. I don't know how you don't like. Oh, God, it's got to be so demoralizing to only get 2 wins in an entire season. 12 points on the board is just.
that's
God, it's
crazy.
tough. It is
It's
really
crazy.
tough.
Mhm.
I mean, it's interesting when you look at just statistics overall on. I mean, God, I mean, just they need help again. It's just tough, right? Because they need help everywhere. But I'm going to go with the same sort of theory that you just need to start from the back. I mean, honestly, even like the way back, sometimes like fixing the goalkeeper is really the best issue. I know they had Aaron Ramsdale. I don't even. It's kind of crazy what happened to that guy because I loved him at Arsenal, and then Mikel Arteta just has no loyalty to his players. It doesn't seem like he's just like, which is not a bad thing. Honestly, David Raya is. I love him. He's clearly better. So it was obviously the right choice. But it is kind of wild that you could. I don't know. It makes you think like, okay, what are all the other players now thinking? Like, well,
Even,
you just
if
even if I have an amazing season, will I just be offloaded? You're just gonna buy somebody else and I'm gone. But yeah, he didn't have a great time. It's tough. I mean, you got a lot of practice at Southampton, that's for sure. But I don't know if I would think about selling him. I think he's a great goalkeeper. So probably not that. But
yeah, definitely.
I was looking at Kyle Walker-Peters. I used to like him too. It's crazy. It is something I love
Definitely.
about football is just how much a player can rise and fall based on either teams that they're on or managers that they have, systems that they're in, and sometimes you don't see greatness, but greatness is there, or sometimes it looks like greatness is there, but then clearly there's they were overperforming. There's a ton of data and statistics that you can look at that it's hard to really judge how good of a player is. But honestly, Kyle Walker-Peters is a good shout, just because, I mean, just did not do great. But you could definitely look at probably getting some coin. I'm trying to think because there's not a lot of money in a lot of these players. But Kyle Walker-Peters, I mean, again, in his prime, probably one of the most valuable players on their squad. That's a pretty good shout, honestly. And like I said, going with the theory of you got to start from the back. I'm gonna take that pick. I'm gonna agree with the intelligent producer that we have here.
No, definitely. We all agree with him. Producer's pick, definitely. Kyle Walker-Peters. Definitely. He, in my opinion, I feel he's Premier League level. That's what I feel, in my opinion. I feel he should be in the Premier
Yeah.
League. So if they're going down to the Championship, like they even a side that finished like a Fulham or one of them could get him. And what's the name? I think this guy. What's his name? Livramento is subject to a bid from Man City. So I wouldn't be surprised if they
He's
look
decent
to
too.
him as a replacement. So someone like Kyle Walker-Peters is a person I know, that should be looking to move from Southampton. Southampton had it's a shit season is even an understatement. Southampton at some point they were called the 3-point team. If you don't get 3 points from them, you actually did bad. If you didn't get 3 points from Southampton, it was a very bad game. That's what it is, and that's to show how bad that team, they were not even moving like a Premier League level side for a long time in the season. Like the majority of the season, they were just operating like a championship side or a League One side. But it's what it is. They got relegated like 2 months to spare. That's how bad they were. But that aside, most of their players, like you were talking about, you were talking Ramsdale. You said Ramsdale, yeah. It's sad to see Ramsdale in the championship, but it's what it is. He could make a move, but if there's anyone I feel that
I would like to see him leave, but yeah, I'm thinking it would be nice for him to leave too.
Yeah, it would. I wouldn't be surprised if he leaves, to be fair. Because one thing about relegation is a lot of players don't even like the championship. That's the thing. Most of all these players, they're Premier League level players. So they always feel they should be in the Premier League. Like it's even good for them, like if in terms of their careers, if they want to even make some moves. Because going down to the championship, to an extent, some of these clubs might not be able to pay you some salaries. They may or whatever, but still, like having to hold on to most of I won't say good players. The average players you have will be a hard thing. So the Ramsdale, yes, it will be hard to hold on to him. Then Kyle Walker-Peters, I know for sure that is a Premier League level player. Like definitely, he would be one person I know that wouldn't survive this transfer window. Kyle Walker-Peters, I know definitely he will probably be on the move. Him or even the striker, the Nigerian, Paul Onachu. Paul Onachu is another one I feel maybe a Saudi or a Turkey could be in the. Yeah, that's the thing with this. Because one thing about these players, they get you goals. They could be in the call for him. Paul Onachu, you could probably a Saudi Ali Tad or what's the name, or maybe Trabzonspor, someone, one of them in Turkey probably come for him. Yeah, also the Camel League, yeah, one of them. Well, he should be someone I feel that should be looking to move down there to make some money. But yeah, him, Kyle Walker-Peters, like our producer said, and like he also Aaron Ramsdale as well. Yeah, they could be looking to move now that Southampton got relegated. Yeah.
Yeah, well, solid chance from you guys, but sorry to bust you all's bubble, but our Peters was already going to leave on a free. His contract ends at the end of this month, actually, and then he's going to sign an extension.
Okay.
All right, so Ramsdale. Let Ramsdale.
Yeah, and Chris, by the way, as much as you love Ramsdale, let me remind you that this is the third relegation on his CV. So there's something
How much of that is the fault of the goalkeeper or the players in front of the goalkeeper?
I agree.
But Barry, you're throwing your boy under the bus. You're throwing your
Rambo is not my boy. He's not my boy because for me as well, I share the same sentiment that Arteta had for the reason for selling him. Ramsdale is a very good goalkeeper. I think he's an excellent shot stopper. He's not bad with the ball at his feet. The problem with Aaron Ramsdale is concentration.
Yeah, I think there was an interview that.
Yeah, for me it was already obvious even before that interview. But my oh my, how do you make such a public interview and you admit your fault, which was already quite seen to me. I remember one game before this season, the last time that Southampton were actually in the Premier League, Arsenal played a game against them, and then Arsenal conceded this silly goal just because Aaron Ramsdale was looking at a bird. There was a bird behind him, and he was more concerned. It was a pigeon. He was more concerned about the pigeon walking beside him rather than keeping Arsenal from conceding.
All right, listen. He's got undiagnosed ADHD. Just give him some medicine.
There was a period he used to wear a cap. Even remember the period he used to wear?
Yeah, he used to wear a cap, and that reminded me of you see this guy when he was out Bolton Wanderers back in the days. I'm like, what's this guy on? To be honest, but generally, aside being diagnosed with ADHD, the truth is that young goalkeepers actually find it difficult to focus for 90 minutes. So it's not just a Ramsdale thing, but I think for Ramsdale, it's just more pronounced, majorly because he embraces it. And I think that's a problem. If you want to be playing for one of the best clubs in the world, a high level of concentration is needed, especially if you're going to save your team. Because this season in particular, honestly, David Raya saved Arsenal.
I'm not mad about it. David Raya. I love David Raya. Yeah,
exactly. So I think we'll give it to him. Guys, one player that you all did not mention from Southampton, Tyler Diblin. Tyler Diblin had a fantastic season for them. The young kid. I think he can fetch them a lot of money.
Premier League level player. That's a
Yeah,
Premier
Premier
League
League
level
player,
player.
but also a lot of teams in Germany are interested in him. Borussia Dortmund is interested in him. The Red Bull Group in particular is interested in him. So I think he's good enough to play for Leipzig, in my opinion. Exactly.
That's
So I'm not asking about 100. Obviously, that's crazy, but if you
That
take
is
a look
actually
at
that
if
is
you
actually
look at
crazy
the
for a
way
relegated
the way
side.
the transfer window is ridiculous, I don't blame Southampton. And probably who is Southampton's biggest sale? Maybe it's
Listen,
still
you only
Van
got to start
Dijk.
high, you know.
Yeah, still Van Dijk, which is pretty ridiculous since Van Dijk
Oh
left the club
yeah, Van Dijk, yeah, it is.
years ago. Another good player who might fetch them good money is the lad number 18, Mateus Fernandes. I think he had a good individual season. He could fetch them some money. Sulemana, the Ghanaian, he was
Yeah.
also pretty brilliant for me, in my opinion. I think he had some good individual performances across the season. But hey, we finally made it to the end of this episode, guys. Big shout out to everyone who has listened and watched up until this end in three hour episode there, but it was worth it. Most of these players definitely need to find new homes. Most of these players would most likely save the teams that would be selling them. So yeah, having this conversation was totally worth it. Big shout out to Chris and Rafa for joining today's episode. Hopefully, we see you guys in subsequent episodes as well. So, once again, thank you for joining. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Make sure you do that. Very, very important. And then on the next episode, we will be discussing one man in particular that we actually brought up. We did say for Manchester City, one player they should sell is Jack Grealish. In the next episode of the Most Entertaining Podcast, we'll be discussing the potential club that would be a great fit for Jack Grealish. That's what we'll be discussing next week on the Most Entertaining Podcast. Have a great week, guys. See you soon. Peace.